Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Welcome to tradertv.live. North American stock futures, little change once again. We're seeing some negativity return after yesterday following Amazon's miss. Unfortunate miss there for Amazon. Earnings out aftermarket yesterday. So Amazon and Pinterest, the two big ones we'll get to today, both in negative territory, big time, 20+% to the downside for Pinterest. We'll talk about that. Robinhood shares back, very active in the pre-market here, trading to the downside once again this morning as well after the IPO yesterday. Overall, though, pretty solid month as we head towards the final trading session of July for all three U.S. indexes. 1.89 for the Dow, 2.83 for the S&P 500, NASDAQ about 1.7% on the month. So all three nicely positive so far. Yesterday's gains came even as we got that GDP, second quarter GDP data that came in a little bit lower than expected. As we said, Pinterest, Amazon, the two big ones today. More Chinese negativity. So we're going to talk a lot about Chinese stocks. DD Global under pressure once again here. Going to be an interesting day. It's Friday, July 30th, 2021. TraderTV.live starts now. And there we go. Look at how things stand at this point. Some red numbers across the board. As we said, 0.6 for the S&P, 0.15 for the Dow, 1.09. That's basically all Amazon at this point. We're going to talk about that. For the NASDAQ, TSX down about 0.5% at this point. Brazil Open already trading basically flat. We have a bit of a mix showing so far for cryptos on a Friday. It is the final trading session of July, as we said. Our good friend Arun in for Sean today. Sean enjoying a long weekend. Good to have Arun along with us. Neil's excited because baseball has finally returned to Toronto. Neil, you're going to be venturing off to a Blue Jays game today.
It's about time, man. I'm thrilled. I got my Jays gear on. I got this ridiculous Lourdes Gurriel shirt. It's got pineapples on it. The pineapples are not on pizza because that's where they belong, on a funny shirt or in my belly. But yeah, I'm excited just because it's been a while, man. It's been a couple of years since I've been able to go to a game, and I absolutely love the Blue Jays. They've done nothing at the trade deadline, but there was a flurry of activity in the rest of baseball, and even more so in the markets, guys. Yeah, that's not a misprint. I got a pun over here. I am actually long Pinterest. Yeah, I'm giving this one to the low of the day. It's just gone so far to the downside, and I look at where the support was here, and it's like 20%. A lot of it actually deserved when you look at the numbers, but sometimes you got to trust your gut. We talked about that in the afternoon show, how dodgy, to steal a word from one of the viewers. I said it looked weak. Someone said dodgy. I'm like, I'll go with that from now on. Very dodgy price action in Pinterest, and clearly it was foretelling something, but it's so far down that I like the shot off this lows. It's holding a consolidation, so we're going to go for it here. Excited to have Arun because after Amazon earnings, everyone wants to see how the market overall holds up to end this week because one of the big boys goes down and it can take the market with it, Arun.
Yeah, and you can see this market. It's thin to the downside, and it's kind of expected because the market's been up for how long now? It's been strong, and we've just been creeping higher and higher. Anytime you get to a point where you need more buyers to keep it going, and we're starting to slow down, it opens the downside wide open. And when you have someone like Amazon come out, it's a big portion of some of these tech indexes, specifically NASDAQ. It affects the market wide open to the downside. Here we go. Now, given that it's the final day of the month and we have some earnings to deal with, specifically from Amazon, how is this market going to close the session? That's going to be very important. How we open is going to be interesting, but how we close is going to be even more interesting. So anyone that wants to tune in on what the excitement is going to be, come in towards the afternoon show and you'll watch us how we're going to trade that close. And that's going to be the big mover, I believe, to close out the month with Amazon earnings just coming out. I think the end of the day is going to be quite spicy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this overall market responds. As we said, positive on the month, but only just so far. So 1+%, 2+ for the S&P on the month. But we'll see how things shape out here today on a Friday. Before we go any further, let's get over to the desk and say good morning to Miss V.
Hi team, happy Friday everyone. Let's have a wonderful day together and finish this week in a positive territory. Please make sure to smash the like button and let's get it started, Brandon.
Yes, let's indeed, guys, get it started. It's hard to avoid the big news today, which is going to be Amazon to the downside. What a move we saw after market yesterday. Sitting here right now, there we go, 6.84% to the downside. Been a long time since we've had this kind of a move for a stock like Amazon. Obviously, $3,300 plus still, but coming into some significant levels here, guys, after this miss. And I mean, they did miss on the sales side of things, so it is a little bit questionable what is going to transpire here today for Amazon.
Look, it'll be interesting. I know a lot of people don't trade Amazon because of the price, but you get back to that 3,300, and look, the first thing I look at is if you're going to be a pandemic play, right? Like everyone has talked about, you know, transitory inflation, this or that. And that things are extraordinary, so you're going to get oversized numbers when the economy is rebounding, so GDP will be out of whack because it went down so far. Why does none of that apply to the growth for Amazon? Like, they had explosive numbers because everybody was shopping online. You knew that was going to be the case. They were never going to be able to keep it up. Now, obviously, it's going to be slightly true here that, you know, it's the first time in the 3 years that they've missed on revenue. I get that. And so that's why there's some concern. And a lot of it has to do with the markets at the highs here today. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a buying opportunity here for Amazon. I think it's pretty cool, Brennan, that we were able to get, we had Joss on. They had that new CDR product. And then Amazon was the first listing to trade there in the on the CSE there. So I'll be checking that for liquidity because on earnings, it's a good way to test it. If this thing falls anywhere even remotely near the 32.5, I think that's like a screaming buy. If not, just even today. For the trade, though, I mean, I think there'll be better places to go in for the day trade. Amazon not always the best setup. I mean, you'd be looking for things like a potential break, I guess, on momentum at 33.80, but I'd much rather look back to like 32.50 here. That's a gigantic gap to be filled. And on a Friday, with the last of earnings to come through and the overall market sentiment kind of looking to the downside, it's not necessarily, you know, the place to gamble right here. I think next week is going to give us some fantastic opportunities, but man, if Amazon comes back and gets anywhere close to positive, what a great sign that would be overall for the market in general, because this is the first of the big boys to actually come in. I mean, Facebook did, but not nearly this much.
Yeah, you know, Amazon, as a day trader, it's kind of tough because it's a $3,000 stock. And I mean, the indexes are priced in the thousands, fine, those are indexes, but the stock itself at 3,000 is crazy thin. How much size can you really take? And how trustworthy are the levels given how thin volume is going to be? So I stay away. For anyone who's seen me trade here on the show before, I try to stay away from stocks above a certain price. Specifically for me, $500 or so seems to be the cutoff for me. So 3,000 is way outside of my range. But let's take a look at the daily chart. Investment-wise, let's take a look at what this stock has been doing. And you can see this has been, even though the range is super wide, it's been fairly tight if you consider $500 tight for a $3,000 stock. But 3,200 to 3,700 seems to be the majority of the action for the last little while, going back to May. So how much space do you have to the downside? Maybe $150 before you hit some resistance. That's the absolute bottom. But in terms of day trading, I'm going to stay away from it. But the bigger picture does seem like it is running into some support. Maybe a bounce, maybe in play for today.
Yeah, if you ever wondered the actual influence of a stock like Amazon on the market, have a look at the NASDAQ today, because that is basically what we are seeing as far as the negativity is involved. Let's bring in Mark Roberts here, president of Sun Lake Strategies, get his take on how things are shaping up for Friday. Good to see you, Mark. Welcome back to the last trading day of July. It's been a pretty successful month, as we said. All three U.S. indexes positive on the month heading into August, but some question marks here to deal with today as far as these earnings reports. Give us your take on, you know, the state of the overall tech sector and this influence that Amazon has, and what do you think about this report?
Few things. One, tech was priced for perfection, so any slight disagreement between analysts or investors on either margin, delivery, logistics, anything is going to set off a selling spree. Personally, I've been making sales in these high-tech areas and going into more consumer staple and discretionary names in the last few weeks. I only believe that Amazon is the best at what they do, but I don't see how they could have kept it up. Personally, if I had to make a bet, I say the company splits the stock and the stock comes roaring back.
The other, it's interesting, Sean and I were actually talking about that very thing last night after market. Let's discuss Pinterest here as well, because the other big earnings name today. I mean, 20% seems like a little much here as far as Pinterest is concerned.
Yeah, a lot of people had been hiding in this stock. It's really no surprise that it got pummeled, if you will, and it's just a name right now I would not touch. It's coming into the cluster area, which is good for day traders or swing traders. For investors, I'd stay on the sideline.
Yeah, there's not much in that report to kind of wrap your head around as far as positivity is concerned. If we kind of take a step back and look at what is happening as a whole when it comes to China and these Chinese stocks that have just been decimated over the past couple of weeks, continues today. The entire group down another 4%. More headlines coming out as far as the government cracking down on some of these names. Where do we stand as a whole, as far as you are concerned from some of these Chinese stocks, and how do you approach, a DD Holdings today?
I think if you haven't made your sales, if you haven't been able to short, if you haven't been able to lighten up on your positions, you might as well close your eyes and just wait for some level for them to hold, and then just prune on rallies. This crackdown is not a one-day event, as we've seen. When ARK sold their Chinese holdings a few weeks ago, everybody sort of giggled how late they were to the punch, but it turns out they weren't late at all. They were right in the middle of the stream of bad news that comes. I own none, except, as I've talked to your guys before, I play this through the General Motors, the Fords, those kind of names. I'm much more comfortable on the American side.
And if we do get, any kind of positivity returning to this group, is it an Alibaba? Is it a Pinduoduo, JD.com? I mean, is there one or two that you kind of look to as far as leadership is concerned in that group?
I think you've mentioned them. There may be one or two others, but you've got to go with the 4 or 5 top names and trade it that way. But for the moment, I don't see the win-win except for your day trading, where you can pick a level and make a few points. I
want to get your take here, Mark, on where we are as a whole going into August. I mean, as we said, positive month in July, still, pretty good year going for the overall indexes. What's it going to take to keep this momentum going as far as you're concerned as we head into the latter part of the summer?
Well, certainly Delta variant is going to be a major issue. The mismessaging going on is frightening, and I think that's going to be a lot of it. Companies did what they had to do. They've either come through or they've talked about margin squeeze or chip shortage. All of that's out. I think if you look beyond that, the U.S. market is still the strongest and the best, so I'm staying net long. I raised a lot of cash in the last few days, and I'm happy that I did.
That's what I'm talking about, Mark. And look, I kind of echo your thoughts on Pinterest, and I have a specific question I want to ask you about Pinterest, because I agree with you on the day trade. I mean, I'm kind of sitting in a bounce back long, but I want to talk about Robinhood first, if we can, just because anytime you get an IPO, this is like the worst performing of its size in quite some time. Overall, we were talking about this yesterday. The ETF, that IPO ETF, has not performed all that well this year, and it's been a turn in sentiment. But specifically with Robinhood, they set aside 35% for actual Robinhood users to be able to buy up there. And if you think that the notion that retail traders might be holders and that lessen the available amount for other people to come in and buy, Where was the buying activity supposed to come if not only from institutions when that thesis was that, hey, it'll get pumped up and the retail users are going to love it and they're going to be able to take this up like a GameStop? So if it's only institutions buying this, how far can it go down? Because I see a lot of reasons why this is getting doubted, and a lot of them make a ton of sense to me. As someone who's been around the block for a while and probably understands far better than most how the Schwabs of the world work, and the bigger names, is there a case for Robinhood to have this valuation, or do you see this pulling a Coinbase? And we saw what happened. I mean, I know that was a direct listing, but we saw what happened.
I think this goes down to 25. I think a company that sells its trade flow to make money is a model for disaster. I'm not surprised that retail didn't buy this. And I think those that bought it, if they had seen 40, 45, they would have felt a whole lot better. But seeing it break 38 and get down to almost 33 tells me you're going a lot lower.
Yeah, it's just, I'm telling you, the only reason I brought up Coinbase is because of that feeling. And speaking of feelings, and I'm going to tempt fate here by switching my chart in full time, but Pinterest, and we were in our afternoon show, and we actually, when we said this after Snapchat, it's like, oh my goodness, if Snapchat goes down on their numbers, then Facebook went down on their numbers, and those guys actually beat and hit their user numbers. What is Pinterest going to do? And then yesterday happened, and I kind of just want to point out, it's kind of hard to be able to catch this because it won't look as big because of the gap down. But it got sold off at the close, on Wednesday. And then right from the open, right from the get-go, right at the open, we're just heading straight southbound, and then a strong downward move. And then all I could say was a mini flash crash happened at 220 on Pinterest. Now, what's your experience with, because this is all about a learning opportunity, I think maybe. What's your experience with seeing something like this going into earnings when a lot of other names in the space had shown weakness and this was more vulnerable? Would this have tipped you off that something really big was going to happen, or is it just noise?
No, it tipped me off, and I'm not surprised. And what that was, I'm not sure, but I would have been selling into that aggressively.
For sure, and this is why we like to get I'm just also kind of curious what it would be like on the floor when that's happening back in the day, when you get a liquidity event like that. Although I know it was different back in your times, but is it abject? Are people wondering what's going on? Is there a lot of speculation? Just what would happen when you have a little bit of a mini flash crash on a stock? Does everyone kind of stop what they're doing and get focused on that one particular name, even if they weren't watching it?
Yeah, I would say so, especially since tech has led the way up. This stock is a little different. It couldn't make higher highs, and it made, we'll call it lower lows for lack of a better term. So it tipped me off that there was a problem. And then you couldn't get back through 80 with heavy selling pressure. Not so much the volume, but the net sellers were there. Whether they were shorts, they were funds liquidating, I don't know. Then you get that, we'll call it your flash crash. And for me, I would have been out of that stock quite quickly.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself. And we're not supposed to put on trades on our personal account until we're done the show, and that's a bit of a missed opportunity. I'll say that for sure. I want to come just quickly to U.S. Steel. We don't really talk about it as often. They did a report, of course. It's been, it was a fantastic place to have the money late last year, obviously, and then we had the shortages and yada yada yada. We made a double top here, and we're finally getting back above and breaking past this 25. Now you had the infrastructure bill just come through. You had pretty solid earnings coming around. Are we looking at a rebound? Is this the kind of name that, maybe not considered best in breed in the space? Is it still one that can make another push to the top? Or is this double top and wall in front of 30 something that would concern you? Are these markets too top heavy, or some of these names that failed to break out have a chance to do so in the next quarter?
I think your theme going forward is that they have more to go. China, whether it's iron ore or copper or whatever it may be, does affect. So when they sneeze or cough, we react. I think you may get that. Today I saw it in BHP and some of the other names. So yeah, it could pull back, but I look at the SLX, which is the ETF for steel. And I'm very bullish on steel going forward, especially with infrastructure, which we know will happen even if it's watered down.
Thanks a lot, Mark. And look, we always do this because I'm always curious. We talk about a lot of different symbols here. We'll go through our list, but it's a big earnings week, obviously, a big point in the market. Is there a particular name out there that you're looking forward to next week? Maybe something that hasn't reported. What's on your watch today? Please say Caterpillar. Please say Caterpillar. I'm just kidding.
CLAC, KLAC. If you haven't looked at it, take a look at it. The analyst report that came out is extremely bullish, quite reversing their negative thought. So I'm going to revisit that stock today.
Okay, gonna look at KLAC. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna watch like KLA. Okay, another nice little breakout. I mean, every time you pull something up, it's never an ugly chart, which I guess makes a little bit of sense, and fine, it's fair enough. You don't have to say something positive about Caterpillar, but that's down 2%, despite solid numbers as well, but I guess that's the market we're in, Mark.
The other thing is I bought quite a bit of Archer Daniels, ADM, Bungie, BG. I'm looking to buy ACI in the grocery. I think food inflation is your next major level. We've already begun the process, but I think that continues well into the rest of the year.
Thanks a lot, Mark. As always, food inflation, listen up, man. Transitory nonsense. I'm not believing it. But Mark, have a fantastic weekend. It's not a long weekend for you guys in the States. It is in here, Canada, although we'll be back on Monday. Enjoy that weekend. Summer is quickly evaporating here, but always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you next week, Mark.
Have a great weekend.
All right, guys, let's get a few analyst upgrades and downgrades for this morning. Notable names on here: MasterCard, Pfizer, Twitter, Twilio, another earnings name we'll get to in negative territory so far. You can see price target cut on that one. Yeah, there it is. Amazon to the downside. Morgan Stanley with a price target cut. Pinterest here, Novacure, and Silk Road all on the downside.
Yes, sir. Pfizer got an upgrade. Interesting one there. Actually looking for a place to get some more of that. And just got a question there. Someone was asking about Procter. There's a lot of earnings, obviously, to get to. And I know I'll just get this one out of the way because at the end of the day, we never day trade something like a Procter & Gamble. And we probably never will. But I love P&G the same way I love Pepsi. And it's a great place. Pepsi was a great place to hide. And it even started breaking out here. You're not going to get crazy moves. But I think there's a decent chance we hang out in this cluster. I want to be adding this one. Give it a couple of days after earnings, see if you can't catch a value, especially if the market drops in here. But yeah, I mean, I love a Procter & Gamble and everything about them. And I think we've done some videos on dividend stocks and whatnot. So you've probably heard that story before if you've been watching those from PG and Pepsi as well. I mean, whatever, Caterpillar, Mark didn't want to say anything nice about it. That could be heading to the downside even after good earnings. So we'll have to watch that closely. And you saw Pfizer with that upgrade. Should be an interesting day in the markets, man. I'm telling you, if we don't, Arun, if the market doesn't hold up today after what happened with Amazon, this could be that small dip that I think everybody that has powder dry has been kind of waiting for, patiently thinking they keep missing out on. So in some ways, it's like you don't hope the market goes down, but you hope the market goes. It's weird, right? Everyone
I mean, as day traders, it doesn't really matter to us, right? Unless you're stuck where you can only go long, then it's a problem. But if you want to play the short side, you can do the short ETFs. So even if the market goes down, you can make money through the short ETFs if you choose to do that. So in a way, it really shouldn't matter which direction, but obviously everyone wants to build portfolio value and whatnot. Great. And that's what the long-term stocks do. But Amazon is a concern for a stock or for a market that's been fairly hot. And one of the big tech leaders having an issue, yeah, that's going to be maybe a hiccup. But given how the market's been trading, I'm going to talk specifically about the ES futures. But given how the market's been trading above 4,400, it's been light. It's been very thin. It's been weird action. And I feel like we do have some space to the downside. And it's a good thing, though. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean the market's going to fall off. It just means that it's going to reset a little bit. And that's a good thing for the general direction of the market afterwards. Think about it. We're going into August. We're going into the quietest month of the year, typically. And the market's starting to slow down, and the market's starting to come off a little bit. You think people are taking profit, going on vacation if they can, if they have the ability to. And maybe in September, when everyone gets back, they're going to reset and find some stuff to buy. One trade I just took, actually, there was a couple trades I took. One pins. I know, Neil, you're long. I went short in front of 58. And then I realized I thought I was working with some resistance there. I changed my mind. I took my 20-cent hit or so, and I walked away just above 58. The other trade I have on my hands is FUTU. I went long just above 98. The stop on that is just below 95. First target is north of $100. So I'm looking to make more than 1-to-1 on this trade. But for now, those are the only trades I've got.
All right, guys, let's get into what is moving around in the pre-market so far this morning. If you haven't done so yet, that is the link you need to go to grab the watch list. We go through it every single morning when we come on, absolutely free. All you need is an email address and you get access to the watch list. Let's get into it. The first one, the big one, obviously, Pinterest this morning, guys. And when I say big, I mean the big mover of the day to the downside, obviously, pins 20% here, guys, still for PINS after that report.
Yeah, look, it's going to be bad, right? Like you forget it. Like if you saw what happened when Facebook met expectations with their user growth, right? When Pinterest completely missed them and has a decline in the U.S., like a 7% decline. Like give me a break. Like it's going to get watershed. As we talked about just there with Mark. I mean, sometimes your spider sense is telling you something. Look, it's just, it got sold off for it close and then the whole day yesterday and then a flash crash going into earnings when you had a negative sentiment in the related space as well. Sometimes where there's smoke, there's a fire, and there was a big time burning fire in Pinterest. And look, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. Like I've been holding I always say that it doesn't matter what your cost base is. You are either long a position or you're not. You have X amount of capital, so you can't care. Like you can sit there rose-colored glass and be like, yeah, but I'm still up X on it, so hang on, it's fine. No, it's not fine because it was ample opportunity to take more off when we had the initial like a big plush off a double high. This was obviously another reason to get some out. So it doesn't matter what you're up on a stock, whether you're selling the money. That stuff is all irrelevant. Now to the day trade, as Mark said, like I am long in Pinterest here at 57.90, and yeah, okay, we're about like 60-70 cents in the money. Why am I looking to gift horse in the mouth? It's a pre-market. Sorry guys, let me just try to take a couple of legs off of the trade there. Just take a little bit out. It's a pre-market, so I want to make sure we bang out some profits on that. But you get into that cluster at like 54 and then into the top end of this at about 58, 59. And I say to myself, that's just too far. So we're gonna get some to the long side. And then I like the fact that we're holding these lows, right? So you did a couple of tests inside the range, put in some higher lows, and then of course you had this like crazy, this is something that I should have learned about. Like, at 8 o'clock, you get those overnight dumps of it's like overnight prints, and then dark pools come through. And then this craziness that always happens on a volume spike, it's just a bunch of deep prints that are reporting late trades from overnight. But oftentimes, it can cause a really bad move to the downside as everyone's reading the tape, and a lot of times it'll be negative tape. And then right in the midst of a breakout, it's like you never want to break out at that time because it'll get slammed back in. So I'm like, okay, well, that's a bad fill. Let's let it calm down. And once it calmed down, I'm like, let's just add to it to get a good average price and then work it in. But if I had just not taken any shares up there, it would be much, much better. I'm going to take, like I said, I just took some out there when it made that push to like 58.5. I definitely take a few more out the next dollar up, not 59, but like 59.5. And then you're just on your way to 60. Now, I think there could be maybe a 60 break. And then, if it gets to 62, 63, that's about as far as I'd be willing to go to be able to think this is going to be a home run. I'd be perfectly happy with that return. There's a heck of a lot to not like about Pinterest. I'll be probably dumping it in the personal account at some point in the next couple of days, maybe even altogether because Snapchat's better. But the reality of this is, it's not a good look. Your money can get into much better places, as Mark said, whether it's Facebook or Snap. It doesn't really make a difference whether it's Etsy. Just a lot of these are going to be better than Pinterest, and the warning signs were certainly there. And I will never ignore something like a flash crash on 2 days worth of selling and the momentum that we saw. I mean, it was really, really giving you a gigantic hint. And we kind of ignored, I know I kind of ignored that one, and I'm regretting it here. So I'm glad we got to see this and be able to learn from it in Pinterest.
Yeah, Pinterest was interesting around 58. I'm looking at 59 for the upside breakout. So if I get 59, I'm going to go ahead and try to step into a long, depending on how it breaks. If we can get above there, I think we got a shot. I did take a shot in front of 58. I thought there was enough there just to take a quick look on the short side in case it decided to come back down. It did not. So in this case, Neil's long worked out much better than my short. But again, that was meant to be a quick move around 58. And that's what happens, right? When you're working around key areas, when some new information comes in and changes the game, you got to get out quickly, avoiding myself another 50-cent loss on that. But for now, we're just going to wait on Pinterest to see if we can actually find some support. And then if it does, you know what? Maybe longs are on board towards 60 and even 61, actually. And that might be the better play from yesterday's resistance in the aftermarket.
All right, let's get a check, maybe Arun, on the overall market at this point as well. We need to be aware of a few things here. Understand, I think, as a whole, how much influence this negative NASDAQ is going to have and negative Amazon number is going to have. But 0.6 here for the ES. What are you looking at today?
0.6 for the ES. It's a way to start the day. It's probably one of the bigger numbers I've seen this week in terms of percentage movement. Look at this is the 5-minute chart, by the way, on the S&P 500 E-mini futures September contract. This is the 44.20 area. This is going back to what day is it? 29. So yesterday. This is going back to yesterday around that 44.20. We got that breakout of 44.20, which was the previous high, or around that area, and then it just completely stalled. It ran out of volume, ran out of juice, and then you saw this kind of drift back in, and then Amazon came in and drilled it back down through, not through 4,400, at least close to 4,400. And then in the aftermarket session, keep in mind, futures, guys, is open almost 24 hours, except for a few hours in between. So you get this aftermarket move during the Tokyo session or the Asian session, which brought us right through 4,400 and into the 75 area. This is the area that I'm looking at, around 4,400. I think there's a lot of interest going back a few days around 4,400. So what I'm going to try and do is see if we can't get into the high 80s and look for some sort of a short there. If we can, I think then you have an extension of this 4370 area, which could be a breakout in itself. So if you miss the top around that high 80, then maybe the breakout through breakdown through 4370 is a secondary trade for you. But the stop I'm looking at, or the key area that I'm going to be focusing on, is 4,400. That's my first look. Sure, we can put that the all-time high around that 4420-ish area. But for me, 4,400, that seems to be a good interest to close out a good price point. It's a round number. It's the end of the month. Sometimes things get a little dicey around round numbers. So that's the one I'm going to be focusing on today.
Let's talk Robinhood, guys. I mean, we're sitting here right now. 34 ends up being the support area, the initial support area yesterday after we finally got open. What a move to the downside, though, from 39, 38, 39, all the way down to 33.5. But yeah, back to this kind of a level here, guys, from yesterday. What do we do with Robinhood today?
I'm looking for places to be short Robinhood today, and it's the same thing as yesterday. And this is why we did the video of us live trading it, so you guys can all understand the difference between like taking an IPO for that initial opening move, which we like for that print up, where it's just like get into that long, and it's kind of tough to see, so I'll zoom in. But you made money on the initial long trade. So I mean, it opened up at 38, and then I don't know if you watched the clip back, and hopefully you can hear it. I'm like 37.50 iceberg. And the second, what the mechanics that went for me when it happened was the second I saw that, my stop went from 37 at the time. My stop went to 37.50, and it would hold every single last share. I canceled any offers that I had to take like a small winner, and then let it run into that 39 to 40 range, right? So the second I saw that iceberg, all of that happened real time, and then when it broke back below 38, it was an obvious short, I think. Just when it goes through that issue price, which is also the open price, you get double confirmation, and then it retested it. If we see 38 again, I mean, there's not many levels to work off of, so I would be shorting it. I don't necessarily think that we do, but there is this level here. In the afternoon, China had a great short off of 35, around this breakdown. It was like a 35.80, we'll call it, maybe even 36. If it pops back into that range, I think that could be a nice little level, but I don't know if that'll happen because we're trading all the way down to 33. And the low, it was 33, I think there was one crazy wick down here to 33, 35. 50 was probably the bigger level. If it has any bounce, it has to be there or the even, but I'm shorting pops first to 35 on a 930 play, then I'll take a shot at 36. If that breaks, I'll probably take a shot shorting at 38. I don't get this one. Like 330 million is from of your revenue, of like 500 million is going to be from the sale of order flow, and you need more people to constantly be trading. I don't know. It's hard for me to figure this one out. Kathy Wood seems to like it. She bought 1.3 million shares. She's a heck of a lot smarter than I am. But at the end of the day, for the day trade, the momentum seems to be down to me.
Yeah, Hood. The momentum is to the downside. You see this action, well, again, 5-minute chart. I only use the 5-minute chart for this kind of action anyways. You can see it is focusing in on around 36. That seems to be a huge volume area. As we continue on down, you're seeing pockets of resistance, 35, 35.50, 36. So if you're going to go long, you're going to run into a lot of resistance on the upside. The cleanest point you're probably going to get the breakout at is 37. So if we get above 37, you really have a chance maybe to get $1 before you run into resistance. Every other one is probably going to be 25 to maybe 40 cents before you run into some sort of resistance to the upside. To the downside, though, again, it's a brand new stock, so we don't know what's available to the downside. So downside would be the favorable direction for a stock where it's going to find price discovery, which is find new levels of areas, new pockets of support. And that's the way this stock is looking like it wants to go. If you want to check out, if you want to draw a line, you can easily draw a line from 38 to 36.80, right back to 35, a trend line if you want to draw a trend line. It is heading in that direction. I think we're going to find some interest around, well, not around, but at least we're going to find out what's below 33, at least to start the day.
Yeah, going to be an interesting one. If we do start to hold even some of these levels, what happens later on? It seemed like after things kind of figured themselves out a little bit, there was a level, but then we sold off again. Speaking of selling off, DD Global back to the downside again today, although we are trying to bounce currently for DD, more scrutiny from the Chinese government, Chinese regulators on this entire group, but specifically around DD and the IPO. If you missed it yesterday, they came out, Wall Street Journal reported they were considering going back private. They immediately came out and denied those rumors, but that did give it a nice bump in the pre-market yesterday, but we came all the way back and then some, guys.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable bounce. I mean, and we said this on the afternoon show, that was a missed opportunity because, I mean, the short on the pop, like if you miss that first leg to the downside, and this is going to be right at the open, it gave you the pop right into like 10:30 or so. I mean, it was really about 10:30 and then a high here of 10:40. You were able to get back in because it was plenty of liquidity around 20 to 25. That's where I got the short, but it then gave you that same shot. So, I mean, off chance you get up there, of course, we're going to have a quick look at 10 to 10.25 for a rollover short. But then I look at the afternoon support level. And look, there was a breakup here. It made a nice comeback. It held this 970 area. We closed at 986. That's the first level I'm looking at. If it rolls over through there, I think it's going to be a short all over again. At the end of the day, Mark said it best, and Kathy Wood and a lot of other people getting out of this. Maybe gets it some upward pressure. SoftBank dumped Uber, and there was rumors that they were buying up some DD, and maybe that's why you got. We'll go to the 15 here. Maybe that's why you got a bit of a recovery. But as you can see, I've sort of stayed away from the long and only been shorting it. That stunk. That was great. Great shorting on the initial day to the downside. And it does feel like if we actually hold up at $9 today, then maybe this thing's got another leg in it. But first things first, it actually has to hold 9. So I'm going to be shorting into that previous high, that 970. I'm just short a breakdown at 9 even on DD. If we break those levels, we hold 9 all day long. Maybe in the afternoon show it could be a long, but for now, I'm still thinking southbound on this name until it actually sustains buying a little bit more.
Yep, $9 is the price. That's what I'm looking at as well. You see the action going back to the 28 2 days ago. It hesitated around 9 after. Well, it hesitated around 9, and then between 9 and 9:20, it spent a lot of volume there. Time, volume. I'm more focused on how much volume was run through that area. For me, 9 to 9:20 seems to be fairly strong, and then you get that confirmation late in the set or mid-morning in the yesterday when it bounced right off 9:20 and back towards 10. So now here we are again. What are we going to do when we get to that point? Well, when the bounces start getting lower and lower, well, odds are you're probably more attracted to that even number. If you get that breakout, I think then all of a sudden all this support turns into resistance, short side opens up. And given that the direction of this stock is to the downside, I would wait for 9 to be the break and then just take the breakdown long. Now, if you want to play both edges, you can. There's 2 trades around an area, right? There's a trade in front of an area, in front of a level, and then there's a trade when the level breaks. It's up to you to determine whether it's worth it for you to do both or just the one. Now, if you want to play the long, maybe the 940 long with the 9 even stop, that's available for you as well. You can probably get 40 cents to the upside if you choose to go for a 1-to-1 risk reward, but that's about it, because then by the time it gets to 980, it's going to be running into a ton of resistance. So for me, I'm just going to focus on the $9 break just because I have so much on my screen. But if you do want to spend time on just one stock, maybe try to play twice in front of that 9 level.
Heads up on NVIDIA, guys. Big move down here for NVIDIA, 2%. It did bounce. We got down to 190, but headline out there just essentially saying the Chinese regulators looking into their ARM acquisition. So heads up for NVIDIA trying to bounce at this point off the lows, but big volume spike did come in there for NVIDIA. Let's talk about, speaking of Chinese regulators, let's talk about this group again. We heard Mark's comments essentially saying he's avoiding all of these at all cost. Baidu, Baba, PDD, JD.com, pick one, all down again today, about 3 to 4%.
Look, I mean, you consider Alibaba, of course. Now, remember, anytime I talk about Alibaba, it's in reference to their valuation in the comparison to Amazon. So Amazon's trading down 6.5% today. Alibaba's trading down 3.5%. I mean, you also had, of course, look, and the reality is they're going to have benefited from the pandemic as well. So, and I'm talking about not necessarily the stock price, but more so the business. But you're going to get these negative headwinds. Of course, you have the regulatory side of it. Then you have Amazon. Then you have the market at those levels. And I just want to see this thing base out. I pulled back, and we talked about this. I'm like, if this thing actually were to break the recent low, not this recent low, but I guess the most recent low at 170, you start thinking about like all in at 150. I don't care what the risk is. And that's kind of the thing for Alibaba. For the day trade, I wouldn't necessarily love buying it. And keep a close eye on Amazon. Today, I think that's going to be your bellwether. I do want to talk about TAL just quickly here because I know EDU and TAL are heavily day traded. Come on, don't do this to me. I'll go to the one. TAL still down 4%, but I can show you just how weak it was all yesterday's session. It did try to base out here. It's had some decent breakouts, but I would have a really tight stop if you take the long on this one today, just because the overall space is down. I'm going short DD. I'd just be very, very careful taking something like a 575 break because you really need to chew through like this 580 to 6 area. Like you're going long into chop, which can be a tricky thing. If you have a tight stop at 550, I guess it's not that bad. But I've looked at breakouts on TAL this week, and I'm not going to be doing it here today. For me, it's DD short through the bottom. And as far as Alibaba goes, I want to see this thing settle down 2 or 3 days after Amazon's earnings.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at Baba, and I'm looking at this 190 level. Going back 2 days ago, we spent a lot of time between 190 and 191, spending a lot of volume kind of just trying to hold that area. So now here we are sitting right in between. So I'm very curious how much of a move we're going to get if we get this 190 break. Now, if I decide to take that 190 short, I am going to keep an eye on this. If we decide to go ahead and take that short, I would have to use 192 as a stop. Now, if we don't take the short, this is where I was talking about there's 2 trades in front of a level. Well, if it takes 192.50 before it takes 190, then I'm going to flip. And yes, I am going to go long on this and try and squeeze this up to 195. So there's 2 trades I'm looking at here. The long is going to be above 192.50. The short is going to be below 190, but depends on how we break the low. So there's 2 trades at 2 different levels, and it all depends on how we get to those prices.
All right, let's go to Nikola next, guys. I feel like we're talking about a lot of negativity today because all of these are to the downside. Nikola Corporation back in negative territory. 2%. Trevor Milton arrested yesterday. He quickly posted $100 million in bail to get out. We saw this move late in the day yesterday to the downside for Nikola, back below $12 here once again.
To me, it's interesting because it wasn't too much of a surprise. Everyone knew that these fraudulent everyone knew this was probably going to be coming, and he's not necessarily directly affiliated with the company anymore. Obviously, in name he is. You did come all the way back into like an 1150, which is a bit of I guess was a bit of a support level because we've already bounced sort of down through it. I tend to be on the negative side of Nikola today, but it's not. The momentum isn't as nearly as big as it felt in yesterday's action. So if it caught a bit and got to 1225, that could be a bit of a rollover. I want to jump just quickly over because there's 2 names that everyone keeps asking about here in the chat. One of them is XBIO. And I just want to quickly show this one we traded in the aftermarket in yesterday's action. Well, not in the aftermarket, sorry, in the close show when it put a double top and then it got a bit of a breakout. We actually pop back in to test that high, and then once it rolls lower and then consolidates, usually that's a setup for a breakdown. Now, I missed that 520 breakdown. The consolidation off the low we did get and reloaded here, but it's holding a 550, which isn't an obvious level other than a round number, because I thought we'd be looking at 430 for the next line of support. So that's a bit of a bullish tinge. I'm not going to average into this one anymore. I've already gotten in a couple of times here to the short side. We'll leave on what we have and then see if it pops into 5 at the open, and then that might be a better reload. And then ERYP, I'm not in it because this one's blocked in our system because it had almost no liquidity before. And this is what happened in the aftermarket. We are going to get it unblocked to be able to trade it, but just caution, they actually had news and then it went on zero liquidity and volume up to $25. It's catching a relief bounce, but I mean, I'm looking for a short, but it might be one of those halt style plays. as it stands, if it breaks 9 off the open, I'm anticipating that it halts to the upside, and we'll try to play it that way.
Yeah, you know, XBIO, I actually was looking at that as well. I was looking for stocks, only so many stocks on my scanner popping up, and then I looked in the chat, and people were mentioning XBIO, so I pulled it up. And I'm looking for a trade actually between $4.50 and $5. I break out either direction. I want to use I want to take that trade on that breakout and then use the opposing side as a stop. So if we break 5, I'll use 450. If we break 450, I'll use 5. I'm just waiting for this stock to make a move. I think there's enough. I'm seeing enough volume and action here to want to play that move. So I am just going to keep an eye on this. And if it goes without, when I'm looking at some other stocks, please just put it in the chat. Let me know so I can actually step into this trade, because that is one I do want to take.
Cassava Sciences remains a bit of a mystery so far today. We've been from 100 to 76, and now we're back to 90, guys. So a monster range once again here for Cassava Sciences. And I say it's a mystery because yesterday, if you remember, there was data surrounding their Alzheimer's treatment trial that came out apparently positive, but we saw the huge drop that it went from 145 to 100 yesterday, and here we are back down again today, 15%.
This is the single worst $7 winner that I've ever had in my trading career. That stock was insane. Like, I wrote down 2 things today, and it's like, it's not very often you're like 72.50 and 100. Like, nothing in the middle. Like, I don't know what to do with this stock because there was a triple top. It went 115 to 145, and then it triple topped and then flushed, right? So we was able to get a 130 breakdown because of that cluster there and took it off entirely too early. Then it comes all the way back, and then the original, this is a short that I didn't have, the original short price, that 130 breakdown, it gives you that again. In today's action, I showed the daily chart, 72.5, I guess maybe would be a bit of a bottom, but this stock could be at $50. And it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if it does push up to 100, just because it's pre-market tops. It's right around where we closed yesterday. It would take a big, almost parabolic move to get in there. I think that would be the safest short. So as much as I would love to be, getting into this rollover, it is short sell restricted, obviously. If it pops into 100, that's probably the only way I'm playing this. I don't even think I like defending a 72.5. I'd almost need to see it bounce off that level and then try to catch it on the way back up through like 75. Just be very careful trading it. Like the spread right now, give me a break. The spread right now is 20 or 30 cents, but I remember yesterday looking at like $2 spreads on this stock, so watch out for that at the open. Sava is going to be very, very dangerous to play, but I'll watch it at that 100 level for a short. And 72.50, not the current low, I think could be that buy.
Yeah, when a stock, like you said, Neil, when a stock goes from $100 to $80, just in a couple hours in the pre-market on it's still high volume. We did 1.3 million, but still, it is crazy thin. It's pre-market. So you have to wait for this market stock to open and see what the market is going to bring in terms of volume. Now, what can you do with levels? Well, there's nothing to the upside. There's nothing until you get across 100. So potentially there could be a 95-ish, 85, 50-ish level there, but it's going to depend. I'm going to wait for the market to open. I want to see how much strength is in the first 10 minutes. If the stock is still somewhere near that range and willing to give me an entry that's not crazy in terms of risk, I think maybe a long trade with 85.50, 85 even would be the stop. If there's so many things that have to go into that, right? The market has to open, the stock has to stay still for about 10 minutes. You've seen what it can do. And then on top of that, it has to set up. So there's a lot there, but if all those conditions are met, I think I might want to go ahead and take a long around this area with 85 as a stop.
All right, let's go to United States Steel. Not one that we talk about a lot, but surrounding news, surrounding earnings, we do get opportunities in this stock, guys. A decent report for X here. Not terribly active, though, in the pre-market.
It never really is. I think we covered this a bit with Mark, and I think it's not a bad look. Certainly, I haven't bought this thing since $20 anyways, but to get back into it if you're not in would make a little bit of sense. If we close above 25, it might have some more way to the top. As Mark said, bullish on steel prices. You get the infrastructure bill as well. It's a day trade. No moss, 400,000 shares in pre-market volume, but this one had been looking to make a little bit of a bottom and break back to the upside, and that's what you could be waiting for. Like I said earlier, maybe cautionary at that double top there. It may take some off if you get a nice little gain. But either way, I don't see a day trading U.S. Steel. I just think it's in a pretty solid spot for an ad here, especially when we got that infrastructure bill, and maybe a place to hide out for a little bit if we get a tumultuous Friday around.
Yeah, for United States Steel, I'm looking at 26. If we can get above 26 and sit above 26, then I think maybe an extension, a breakout to the top. Yeah, we got above 26 yesterday, but that's why I want to wait to see whether we can actually stay up there. If we can, then I'm going to go ahead and take a long above 26 and use about 25.50 as a stop. That's the only trade. There's no other trade. I'm not going to look at this on the downside. There's no real clean area to work with, and I'm pretty sure there's more exciting stocks to trade. So let's just move from this, one trade available, and find some other things to work with. And as I'm talking, pins above 59. Neil, how are you doing with your position? Are you going to be taking more out, or are you just going to stick with it?
Look, I said my next target was between that 59 and 60. And the thing about it, pre-market trading is I'm kind of looking at the level 2, just see if there's any significant selling or icebergs or things like that. The momentum is slowing down a little bit at that quarter mark, so I'm probably going to go ahead and take some off there. It spiked into 50, and there was basically nothing there. So let's see if we can't get a little bit more out. I mean, I'd like to be able to buy the dip and then think about what to do at that 60 level, because there could be a bit of a pullback off of 60. At least that's what I was anticipating. And if this is going to go up, I still think there's a chance to get that 62, maybe 62.5 or something along those lines. Why am I not being more aggressive? We always talk about it all the time, guys. You hear me say it. Like, sometimes I have to talk myself into it. When you're talking about like 5 or 10 cents and you have an area where you think it slows down and you're watching tape, sometimes you just cross the spread and get out. So I end up paying down. I get like 50. Like I get 59.08 instead of like 59.20. Like, who cares at that point, right? We're long 57.5 or just above that. My last entry at that 45 mark. So now we're holding out to see what happens at 60. Good one on Pinterest. All about the day trade. Like, I'm not saying you should be buying the stock. It was a bad print, a really, really bad number. Better places to be, I think, and should have read those tree leaves, I guess, last night. Brennan.
All right, a few little ones, bottom end of the watch list to have a look at today, including this one, XBIO. If you remember yesterday, we had this huge run up into the close. 540, 550 ends up being a bit of a level at the top. We had monster volume come in at the end of the day for XBIO. Trying, at least, it's setting up to be possibly the first red day here on the daily chart. We are down significantly. So XBIO, you want to watch that 5 to 540 area, which it's already tested in the pre-market. If we get back up there, though, that's going to be a turning point for that one, guys.
Yeah, that's been a bit of a fun one. Like, I know, and I quickly talked about ERYP, which, yeah, that's the crazy runner, guys. They got fast track designation, and I believe it was some kind of a cancer drug. And when I try to read through those, it's like all gibberish. I'm not a scientist, guys. But the post-market action was completely insane for anybody that was watching this. Incredibly illiquid, obviously, and that's what you're going to see. But you have a quick look at the daily chart, and it's got that usual story when you're basically just slowing, down. You finally get that break up, and you can anticipate it's going to be a bit of a crazy dump. Now, I would have been looking normally at a level like, I'll point over here, like 12, and then into like a 13. Thinking after market yesterday, it felt like this stock was going to have a chance to test those levels, or maybe even hold those levels. We gap way down, which is crazy, down to 6. I'm like, okay, it's probably done. We bounce back up to this 9 area. Because there's room from that 9 and maybe on a 10 break to get to that 12, 13, I am going to look for a 9 long on ERYP, but my gut is telling me this is going to be a huge fade at some point. So I'm kind of leaving myself open to originally short. But that bounce up, if it breaks out, it could just break out right into a halt. So I kind of want to have the opportunity to be a part of that, especially given, now that I can zoom back in here, given that if you get a 9 break, I mean, if you go big, you can give yourself like $1.15 here, because if it breaks 9, almost a decent chance it goes 10%, halt up, get you another like 5% there. You're probably going to be able to get out above $10. Or you go tight stop to where we're clustering right here, which would be around the 825. So like 75 points. You can go with a $1.15 points if you like. But you got to understand, you're not trading this $9 stock for 5 or 10 cent gains. I don't care what the spread says. It's a 1 cent spread. This thing will move dollars today, for sure.
Yeah, a couple stocks that I want to actually look at is Tilray, TLRY. It's below, well, it was below 15. It's kind of hesitating here around 15. I want to see if we can actually get a break of this 1475 area. If we can, I'm going to go ahead and take a short below 1475 with 1550 as my stop. Now, if we break 1550, I'm just going to walk away from this read. But I am looking for the short side break on 1475 of Tilray. And everybody's favorite vaccine maker, Moderna, 350. I'm looking to get a short here. Well, I kind of missed that. I'm going to put an offer in there now. around that 345, in between 345 and 346, with 350 as my stop. Now, I'm just trying to play off of this, volume, that big day where we came off of 353 area all the way down to 342 fairly quickly. We stalled around this 348. Imagine when, on a day like that with a lot of volume coming in and we're stalling here, that's going to be an interesting level. Now, we did it again late in the session yesterday around 348, and here we are below that area as well. So I'm going to go and try to get a trade as close as possible to this 346 with a 350 stop. Now, that's the only trade, and that's going to be an aggressive trade too, because it's a $300 stock. The range is going to be to the bottom of the range. You're looking at least $6, $7 before you hit support. So I'm just hoping to get that entry and that exit before you hit some support.
Well, just a bit of a spike there on Robinhood. On volume, like right at 925, like, oh my gosh. Like usually you don't want to get in at that price, but hey, it's short Robinhood, so I guess it's not that bad. But anyways, it goes right into the 34.50. I had a 45 offer sort of sitting in there. I'm looking at that. My first stop was going to be 35, so I'll probably look at it again. Hopefully a chance right at 9:30 with 4 minutes to go to the open to catch a 9:30 a.m. rollover in front of 35 even from that price, just to go over the levels again. From that price, we do have a look here at a bit of a turning point at 35.75 into 36. If I get stopped out at 35, I'd probably hunt for a short at that price. And then 38, the reference price is always going to be a key price. Not the reference price, the opening price and the IPO issue price, both 38. That'll be a big one if it ever gets there. I'm going to fade it. But that's a big spike to the upside. So I don't know, maybe Kathy Wood's buying some more shares, or somebody just wants me to get stopped out so we can be 2 for 3 in the morning. And I'll knock on wood because I'm only out of half of XBIO, but that one looking pretty solid for now. There's a couple of other names that we didn't get to, and I want to just say we are going to be able to trade ERYP today. I'm sure a lot of you guys will. We'll keep checking in on it from time to time because I know it's a mover that you guys are interested in, but it's a French ADR that we do not have access to because it does trade as a French ADR, so we can't trade it. And then there is also Sava, and I know I said only a couple of deep levels on this. It's weird to me that it's not moving. So like Arun, I double, triple, quadruple down on what Arun said about hold off until this thing opens up. Like for a stock that has had the range like it has, this is essentially 150 to 75, right? So this is lulling you into a sense of complacency. Like maybe allow it to move and make some levels, which is what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm looking back to 172.5, like nothing in this middle until it gives me something to work off of. Like I said, we got out of some Pinterest here, but it continues to try to make its move to the upside. Got to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. Continues to make a move to the upside. It just got to that 60 level and then turned around a little bit. So I was kind of trying to hold through a 60 break. That's a pretty deep pullback though at 60, even though we're enough in the money that I am now looking to buy a dip in front of that previous 58 breakout price. We'll see what happens. It's a bad print for Pinterest. We thought it would test that 60, maybe got it a little bit early in this cluster here and could have held out for like 59.75, but I still have a quarter of that trade on. Pins, big move up. I know it's in the money like $2, but hey, this thing is still down 17% of room.
Yeah, that's an impressive move on pins. I almost feel like now I've seen the move, and I'm like, oh man, when I got out of my short, I should have just went long. Of course, you can say that after it works out, right? Here we go. I got my fill on MRNA. Keep in mind, 928, the NASDAQ imbalances just came out. Odds are this was based on that. So here we are, short 340. What am I short? 345.43 with a 350 stop. And FUTU taking off as well. First target here. You see me, you see that little pinkish line. I got to change the color on that, but that's sitting just in front of 102. That's my first target. That'll be a $4 target if we can get that right off the open. Hopefully we can. And the other setup that I'm looking at right now, XBIO, 450 break, again with the $5 stop. It looks like that's the direction we're going to be going in. So shorts are going to be loaded. I'll be ready to take some shorts on XBIO as soon as we can get that close below 450. And futures, what are we doing on the futures? Hitting the top end of the range here. Again, 43.88 to 43.90. If we can actually stall out here around this area, I'd like to go ahead and take a short. I need it to set up though. It's not going to be automatic. I'm going to wait for this to set up for me. This is where I'd like it with 4,400 as a stop.
And I want to come back to just one name before, only less than a minute to go here, guys. NIO is down 1%. It's basically clustering off the bottom here. Clustering. whatever. I gotta find a better word than clustering. Here's the 15-minute, which I want to pull up if it'll even bother loading. Yesterday's bottom, looking at 41.65. Like, I think that's going to be an interesting stop. There is a little bit of cover below that price, like 41.50 or so. And then we, of course, had that close a couple of sessions ago right around that same price. So that's going to be a key level. If it can't hold that, you might get a flush back into that 40 level where I think it could catch a bit of a bid. So it's not, again, I'm going to be trading, obviously I have 3 names already that I'm in, and I'm looking at DD off the open. I want to be all over Hood, and we're looking at Sava. So it's not going to be front of my list, but it's important to go over some of those levels for Neo, because I know a lot of you guys are trading it in the countdown a little bit late. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a little bit late. We're actually at 4, 3, 2, and Jeff is on the bell. There he is, new member of the family. I had no clue Jeff was ringing the bell. We love it. There you go. The countdown, of course, was a little bit late. Jeff is a welcome member to the family, a good one as well. And oh my goodness, Robin Hood. Are you kidding me? I just got a horrible stop out. I think I probably bungled my stop on Robinhood, which is on the NASDAQ. I got to be able to get back into that one because the failed breakout at that 35, I'm going to try to jump back into those shares. Pinterest still, of course, working in the money, and XBIO, but that's an ugly stop out there that I should never allow myself to have a stop right at the open. Got to let this thing open up, so that's pie in my face. If I had a pie in my face, I would hit that key. Pinterest still about $2 in the money. We're in the money about 20 to 30 pennies on XBIO, and that ERYP is about to break that 9. So anyone watching ERYP about to break the top, be careful, it might halt.
Yeah, a couple of trades here. I did step into XBIO here, short side, just below 450, so I'm at 447 and change. And man, is mRNA taking off. Okay, so if we get that breakout through 350, I'm going to get out. It's going to be a loser. But this has got some crazy strength right off the open. Another stock that's actually working in my favor with the crazy strength, well, FUTU. Here we are back toward, we just crossed 100. 102 is the first target. We'll leave that alone, see if we can't get there. And I think I'm going to have to end up taking the hit on mRNA. So now that kind of changes the read a little bit, because now I wonder if I can actually flip to the long side and use that low, 344 as a stop. I do want to see how this stock trades, but I am surprised by the move of this stock right off the open.
Yeah, and I want to go to DD quick second here. Pops on the open the same way that Robinhood did, which again took out 35. So I took 2 shots at that one and it hasn't worked. But I don't want to be long that stock, at least not yet. I want to check out this level here. We talked about that 970. We're right at that support price. It turned around. So looking to get into DD, but it's light volume so far. Expect a little bit more than that. Brendo.
This guy's big move off the open here through 60. On a huge volume spike. You can see monster volume came in there at the open, trying to get back above 60 for pins still down 16%.
I don't love the fact that it actually failed through that price, but I thought we'd be maybe getting a pullback to buy the dip, and then we get a push in from that bit of a baseline. So instead, we go parabolic upside, and you never want a 930 failure on any name that looks relatively weak, or even those small caps. At the same time, we're deep in the money on this one, a couple of dollars here, and I was looking for a dip buy. If we can hold 59, that might be the reload space, and of course, right, like 1 time's the charm. Look at that. Top wick. Here comes Robinhood again. It's like just sit in a short and just believe in it, because whatever. So as happy as it can be about Pinterest or XBIO, which is going downside, it's like Robinhood just had to shake me out, and now we're headed down to 34. This thing, like, no one wants to buy it except for people covering shorts like me.
Yeah, update here. FUTU, here we go. First target was met. That's a $4 winner right off the bat here. $4 just underneath 102. Next target now is going to be somewhere between 104 and 105. Otherwise, I'm just going to trail this. I'll move the trailing stop from 90. It was originally at 95, so I was risking $3 for the long. Now that I've gotten half out and this stock has actually established itself as support around 98, I'm going to go at 97.50 is going to be the new stop. So I'm going to risk about, 80 cents or so. I'm locking in $4, so I'm looking for at least another $3, $2 to $3, somewhere between $2.50 to $3 before I start looking to take some profit into this 105 area. Now, flip side, there goes mRNA. Now I'm starting to think, well, maybe longs on mRNA are in play given how much strength or how much resistance was here that got broken. So flip side of the trade, when you have a losing trade, keep in mind you can actually change directions. You don't have to just stop trading. So I'm looking at now 344. I want to see how much strength it comes in when we get back under. If we get back under, we do need to get back under 350. I want to see some strength, and if there is strength in that previous resistance area, I'm going to go ahead and take a long with 344 as a stop.
Yes, the ERYP is going to have halted, so we'll do this one, guys. A for XBIO, which I just got some shares out there at 440. That's a quick 40-cent win off of the open, but ERYP, like I said, we don't have access to trade this one today. We want a 9-even break. We said it will halt into that price. Well, it'll likely halt off the open. Then you get an upside haltage. You can take some out on the reopen or maybe allow it to push a little further. Now, obviously, I don't have this trade. I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. But good one to the upside here. Just watch out. It might, as fast as it goes up, it could come right back down. So take some profit. Brendo, what's up? Buddy?
Yeah, pretty small on the float for that one, guys. About 25 million. So heads up for ERYP. Nikola, guys, initial strength here. Finally trying to bounce back above 12 here. We got up to 1250 there. A bit of rejection, but back to positive for Nikola.
Yeah, and look, Nikola was another one that we're looking at pretty heavily here, but I'm just focused on Robinhood. It's not about revenge trading or anything like that, but that one's heading down towards those lows. Cassava Sciences, we said we'd be patient for it. It actually pops into 94. I feel like Arun said a level around there for Sava. I was waiting for a push into 100, but starting to roll over a bit. There's a bit of a bid here at 91.87 just sitting there, but it's only like 20,000 shares. If that can cause it to pop back up to 100, I'll look for the short off of that price. XBIO back well at 450, and Pinterest, as nice as it is, it's starting to come back in again for us here. I should say on us here, as it's right back to that 59 even area. This is where I want to see if it can have a little bit of a bounce. It happens to be VWAP, but it was also this pullback and cluster where we got out. So I always like those levels. If there's a reason to get out, a lot of times that resistance can turn into support. So I want to see it bounce off 49. If it bounces off 49, I'll look to add to my position here. About 70,000 shares on the bid currently. Let's see if it can hold. Brendo?
Another one, guys, moving here. AHPI. Not seeing anything on this yet, but a little one in the biotech space. 760, 750, bit of an area there. 17% for AHPI.
All right, a couple stocks that have crossed my radar now. Okay, so an update with XBIO. I don't like the action here, but I'm just going to be patient with it. I feel like I should have gotten out around 453. I didn't see it though, but now I'm not sure I want to get out, given how far we've come off that 450. Fine, if it's a 50-cent loss, it's fine, whatever. PayPal. 279 break is what I wanted. We kind of crushed right underneath, got a bunch of action through there, and then here we are bouncing. Now, if this can fail, I would like to see this come back under 279 one more time. If this can happen, I think we really have a chance to go short on PayPal. And of course, FUTU, we have that winner. It did get to 104. Again, now at this point, it's in management mode, so I'm not really gonna chase this too much. I'm not gonna put out any more targets. This is the area I wanna get out. I wanna see some more action before I decide to get out. We're backing off this 104, so we know there's some resistance here. That's what I was thinking. Confirmed by the volume. Now we just got to be patient with this and let this one play itself out. 97.50 is a new stop on this one, by the way. What was the other stock? Pins. Pins approaching 60, and they got below 59. This is making me think that maybe now Pins is actually on the table for a long. And I'm thinking if we can actually get back underneath 59 or close to 59 one more time, I think 59 with the 57.50 stop would be the long play. Again, I need it close to 59. This is enough action to make me think that there's a long there, but that's what I'm thinking right now, and let's see if we can get a trade going. And another trade I was thinking was Facebook. Facebook took off right off the open and broke 355. I had 355 marked off here. If we can stabilize in front of above 355, I think then we have a chance to get going. It is at 357, so it's a little too far. It's running into resistance, so I'm going to wait for this to come back under 355 or at least close to 355 before I make a decision. Brennan?
Yeah, tech stock's trying here anyways. Procter & Gamble, another earnings name, guys, that reported, I think it was actually this morning in the pre-market here. We're up nicely, 2.5% day highs, just broke 143. You can see volume on PG today.
Oh, we're pretty happy about this one. We'll walk on the water for Pinterest. Like, it just bounced again. We talked about that dip. Could it hold 49? It tries to break through, gets maybe like 25 pennies, and bounces right back up. I'll cover some at VWAP because that's usually what I'm going to do on a dip buy. And then out of the double tops at 60.50, you got to be concerned. It's overall, it's still a bad print. This is still a bad number. And I think I thought we'd reverse the 62.50, but it looks like 60.50 is going to be. I'll be very happy to take the $3 winner on the original long, and the dip buy is going to be good for a nice little scalp trade as well. Look, I'm going to cover that ERYP, even though I can't trade it. It's still halted. It's going to be in a 5-minute halt. It opens up in about 15 seconds here, unless it's a 10-minute. If it is a 10-minute halt, just hang on tight. It's always 5 or 10. I think it's going to open to the upside. Just to come back over to Cassava Sciences, all the way back down into 87. So it's put in a bit of an opening range here. I still like 100. So I'm still going to go with that if there's any kind of a rollover. But if we do retest 94.95 and there's a chance to roll over into Sava, it is SSR, so shorting on the pops is going to be a little bit easier than just randomly taking it, trying to hit those bids as it tries to crack an 86 level here. You might get it, but if you miss, your order's just sort of hanging out there and you might want to cancel it because if it flashes down like $8 and then comes right back up, you might not want it on the way back up. Certainly a very, very violent name. XBIO for me pops right back into that 480. I was kind of holding out for 85 to 90, never got it. Now it's headed right back to those lows. Might have to get a little bit more aggressive when it comes to shorting the pops, but I would prefer if it tested that 430. We did say in the chat earlier when someone was asking about a target, I said 430 would have been that lower level of support, and we kind of go all the way back into the afternoon. This is $4.30. That was the push into the close. That's why we're bouncing off 430 now, guys. So always get that higher time frame look and then jump back in, especially on these small cap runners. Everyone's looking at the same charts. I'm very close to getting back into Robinhood, but 33.50 is still holding, so I'd rather short close to 34, maybe 34.5, as opposed to just shorting right at the low of the day again.
All right. Oh man, I missed it. I was trying to get my short on PayPal. I actually like the short now, and I put the offer down, and I thought I crossed some levels. I did not, so now I got to get more aggressive and move it down. There's an offer there on PayPal. I completely missed it. I thought I hit the bid. I did not. Anyways, 279. That's where I want the break. There's enough here for me to want to go short. Hopefully, I can get that fill. Even it's sitting there. It's moving around fairly well with a decent spread, like a 10-cent spread. So maybe someone can come up and kind of cross me in there. The stop on this would be 281 for a short on PayPal. That move that you saw, that bounce is exactly what you want to see when you go after a break like that. That's exactly what you want to see. A move up, get some buyers into a kind of head fake and back down. Man, this trade might be gone. All right, Brendan, what's up?
Little one, guys. Penny stock. Dan McIsaac looking at this one. AIHS. New deal today, it looks like, for some automobile leasing in China. So again, the penny stock, just be aware, up nicely, 6% here, back, or trying to get back above 80 cents for that one, guys.
Okay, good look on that one. Sava coming right back into that 87 low, so got to watch that. And remember, on Robinhood, if it takes out that 33.30 area, I'm going short through the quarters. That's low of the day, otherwise hanging out. NEO just turned positive on the session. I'll pull it out just so you can kind of see here. It is testing towards the pre-market highs, but also in the afternoon, we did have a top right at 40, I guess that was more like lunchtime, 43.30, and then we've turned off of that lower high as opposed to the pre-market highs there, guys. So I think that's a pullback that makes a little bit of sense, at least when you look at the chart. So anyone bullish on NEO, maybe give it back to like a 42.50, catch that bounce play. It looks pretty solid to me. I never got into the short on DT. Probably, you know what, maybe a good thing. Might have got shaken out of that like NEO. And then Nikola showing a lot of strength as well if you want to stay in the space. I wouldn't make any comparisons, Nikola to NEO, obviously, but technically speaking in the same space. So we have to. This one's pulling back after just a parabolic move up. We talked about that at the open. I think Brendan mentioned it. I want to be a fader of this. If it gets back and holds below $12, let's think about shorting Nikola, basically, and then holding all day long. Pinterest was a good out. So we'll do this for pins, and I keep hitting NASDAQ, even though it's a New York stock. Tried to make that breakout, resistance at that 650 level. Now it's retesting 59. Look, this thing might actually turn into a short if we hold below that 59 area for any amount of time. I'd be looking only back at that 58. 58 was that breakout price that I got punked with when it had that 8 a.m. dump of the dark pool prints, guys. So that kind of stunk. But it also held on the way back to the upside. So I like 58 for maybe a breakdown. But otherwise, I'm shorting pops if it gets back up to that 60-50. If it makes a triple test of that high, 3 is enough. I'll go short for the first time in Pinterest up there. Brendo?
A lot of strength in small cap world so far today. SC Works Corporation, software provider for the healthcare industry, up here. About 23%, yeah, just coming back into some decent levels around 250, 260 for WORX, guys.
Oh man, I just saw a chart that we were talking about earlier, and I was like, ugh. There's 2 ways to play a stock, and if you want to play in front of the level or maybe not, you can go 940 long or take the 9 break. I wanted the 9 break. Anyone who took the 940 long, here you go, 80 cents. And that was quite impressive. Now here, what are we going to do with DD on the upside? Well, the upside resistance is going to be here. We crossed the first threshold, which was 980. Now we're getting into the next threshold, which is 1020-ish. And then you're going to hit something around 1050, 1040 through 1050 up to 1060. So next 20 cents going on up. Now, if we can clear all of that, if you can get above what looks like about 1066, factor in some stops, let's call it 1075. If you can get above that area, I think then you have pretty much an attack at the highs at 1220. So if you want to go for that, that's the next breakout on the long if you are looking for the long. Sometimes you got to take your own trades, but I was focused on the short side of that one, but that's okay. What are we going to do with the updates here? PayPal, I'm going to leave the offer here at 279, see if I can't get the fill. I still like the trade. Yes, it broke 278. That's fine. XBIO is hesitating around 450, which makes me think that this market is actually stronger on the below 450 than I thought, or this stock specifically. We'll leave it in place, but if it comes in and fails again, I might just cut this trade, walk away. And FUTU, which is right now sitting at a $4 winner, I'm going to leave this one alone. I've already taken profit around 102. I want to take profit around 104, but I want to see how it reacts. It's just trading. Right now, there's no new information that makes me think I got to get out. Yes, it's coming back a little bit, but trades do that. Stocks do that. That's okay. The setup is there. The read is there. The worst it's going to be is going to cost me 80 cents after I've already taken $4 on the first half. So we'll leave that one be. Update on the futures as well. Crazy strength through that 90. So we're going to leave it alone. Again, 4,400 is the area that I'm looking at. So we can still technically slow down and start to set up on the short side, but not yet. The strength is there, so we're going to leave it alone. If we get back into the 85 area, I think I'll activate some shorts on the futures. If we break 4,400 though, I'm going to wait to see if I can't find some more support before I decide to go long. But for now, I'm going to keep an eye on whether this actually wants to break 4,400 with strength or not, if it's just stops, because sometimes they go through round numbers with just stops alone, and then there's no real volume behind it. If it's just stops, then this plays still valid, the short side. But if there's strength behind the move, we're going to have to let it go. Brendan, what's up?
We showed you the negativity on NVIDIA. Not so much. A lot of people talking about this one. For AMD, wow, yeah, impressive. Right back to yesterday's high, 105.75 area, up 2.3%. NVIDIA, on the other hand, still negative, guys, about 1.5%.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually in that just a couple of seconds ago. The room was talking there. I actually just got into Hood. It broke that low of the day. Robinhood, that is. I got shaken when we actually took out that top. And anytime I see a parabolic move like that, that's already failed on a bigger mover like an AMD, I'm going to take a shot at it. Why not? It would have been a good scalp trade, but it's already come and gone at that particular point. The consolidation is actually a good sign. You kind of want to see things settle down. Sometimes it's something like an AMD here, so maybe it needs to get its wins. But now we're back into that Robinhood trade to the south side. XBIO, I think you mentioned that one, Arun, but it is starting to get a little bit concerning because the bid is coming back into it. There was one wipeout bottom. I have not averaged into this trade yet. I was waiting for 485. It does feel like it's going to get there. And yes, I do see that ERYP has opened back up. I would be trading this on a downward halt. Like once it opens back up, you always take some profit out. And I'd probably already be short. It's halted to the downside, but I can't trade it today, unfortunately. If it breaks 8, that just screams short opportunity if this thing breaks $8, guys. But there's not too much we can do about it here. So we're going to be averaging into Robinhood, third time short. Maybe that third time is going to be a charm. If you're watching Tesla recently, I had a bit of a... Come on, Tesla. Come on, there we go. Move right into that 680 level. You know we like 680, and it's always been a good one. I just want to keep in mind, the reason I don't like a break at that particular price, always go back to the previous day, 684 top. So strong move to the upside in Tesla. I know they had to, they're paying out $625 for a lawsuit over a software update, which affected battery performance. But that's being received pretty well so far this morning. But I'd look to yesterday's high instead of that round 680 number. Ms. V is at the desk.
Hey Neil, Amazon is down around 7%. Do you guys think it's a good time to buy Amazon?
I don't know if there's a bad time to buy Amazon. If you're not in it, yes. If you are in it, you can probably wait. In terms of a day trade, though, I mean, look, unless you're catching a breakout off the opening range top, and let's zoom in so you can actually see it. Not a lot of people aren't going to like it because it's an expensive name, but unless you're catching a breakout in this range here, 33.6. I don't know if it makes too much sense. It made sense to me if you're not invested in this name to buy it off of the open, because when you get opportunities to get something 5 or 6% down, it's giving you that pullback right here, so why not? Brendo?
Macy's, guys, some of the retail names pretty strong so far today. Just saw this one, day highs straight. to the upside for Macy's. Still a couple of weeks out. I just checked. It was August 18th for earnings for Macy's, guys.
All right, a couple things. United States Steel took out that 26. I had so many things going on. I missed that one as well. Now I've got a bid down here just in front of 2610, trying to get that entry. It's a late entry. If I can get it, great. The setup is technically still there, so the offer is just going to be left there alone and see if we can get that fill a little bit late. XBIO, here we go. You got that cross. Neil, did you get that 485 entry? You averaged, right?
I didn't get it. Look, I got some more in earlier, but I haven't added to it since that last move to the upside on it. So unfortunately, I didn't add more where I should have. But it's a good trade so far.
Yeah, so I'm looking to see whether this selling can actually be sustained. If this fails, if this cannot stay down here in this 440 and comes right back through 450, I'm going to cut this, walk away. If it costs me a few cents, fine. But I do not want to be in this if this hesitates again. Now, entry with PayPal, we got that to just in front of 279 entry. The stop is still, what did I put the stop at? 82.50 is where my stop is on this. So it's about $3.50 on a stop. And here we go with FUTU. Now, this is $6.50 in the money. Now I can move the stop on this. I'm going to move this below the low, which seems below the lowest point we got on that little midway sell point. So I'm going to say 150, 101-ish, somewhere below there is where I'm going to lock in. So now I'm moving the trailing stop up, locking in $3 as this stock is now $7 in the money on FUTU. Keep in mind, though, this is running into a lot of resistance. So this thing, given how aggressive it is, this thing can fail very aggressively and very quickly, and I could be stopped out soon. But if this works out, I expect it to keep on going slowly. I want to trail this through this area. But if we can clear 110, I think we really have a chance to get to 115. So depending on how I manage this, I may or may not be able to get this thing all the way up there. But for now, we'll just leave this one alone. And hey, XBIO is still working 440, so that's good for now. And United States Steel, if we can get this to come down a little bit, that'd be great, like I mentioned. And PayPal is coming back towards 279.50 again. I like the trade. We'll leave that alone. And futures, getting closer and closer towards 4,400. That's going to be, it's going to ruin the only trade that I have set up for it. So this may not be a morning where I take a futures trade. Hopefully in the afternoon, I do have a setup, again, if it breaks 4,400.
Because you won't hit it, I'll hit this one for you guys. It doesn't mean it's diamond hands, but great, fantastic hold on that trade there, Arun. That's what you got to do sometimes. I'm going to kick myself in the butt. We have on our pay for short system. You don't just put the request in. You have to confirm it, double confirm, just to make sure that you don't pay for something you don't want. So on DD, I actually didn't hit confirm, so I didn't get those locates. I do have them now, or at least I will in a couple of seconds. Here was that test. This is the short that we had in the morning and then missed in the afternoon. It was right off that 10.25 to 10.30 level. It comes right back and is going to try to put in a bit of a double top. Now, admittedly, if I already had the locates, I'd probably have shorted this cluster here at 10.10. So I do get the opportunity to see it retest that high and potentially try to roll over. Once it has a chance to do that, my stops will be at that 10.35 range because I'm looking at yesterday's prices a little bit more. But once we fail off 25, I'll catch it on the way down, throw a 10.35 stop, and that's going to be the plan of action there. No reload on XBIO. That's close to lows of the day. DD is going to be this next trade for me. It looks like it's about to fail right here. When it breaks 10.20, that's when we'll see if we can't get in. Let's make sure we got those shorts. There we go. Just got 10.20 to the short side, 10.35 stop for me on DD. We just went over all of those levels, but I say it over and over again, and every time I make that mistake, I will let you guys know. Preparation is everything. I should have made sure I had those locates before this thing popped. Brendo?
Some of the smaller Chinese EV names starting to go here. Li Auto, I just noticed 6% to the upside. Guys went 32 to 32.5 there on decent volume. So XPeng as well, XPEV also very strong today.
Yeah, you know, I just noticed actually NIO as well. As you were talking about those EV stocks there, NIO. 43.50 breakout. I want it now. So I like this move. I think if we get 43.50, I can use around 42.50, maybe even 75 as a stop. So I'm going to go ahead and put an order out for NIO on the buy side, see if we can get that breakout play. I'm noticing that a lot of these the Chinese names are actually moving fairly aggressively. BABA, another setup that I was looking at that I didn't take. 192.50 breakout. Here we are at 194.37. That trade was there for a little bit. To be fair, I saw this trade. I actually chose not to take it because I had other stocks going. So that's really can't say I missed it. But to be fair, if we can get above 195, we do run into resistance. So at this point, For me, this would have been the final trade anyways. If I had that 192.50 and we stalled around this 194, it looks like what we're doing here, I would have been out anyway. So we can walk away from that one. But NEO, I got to get that order in on NEO, see if we can get in front of 43.50 on the long side.
Yeah, new runner alert here. Look, DD's in the money about like 10 cents or so. I'll take a little bit off here just in the bottom of that cluster. But AHPI, which you might remember because we're trading before, and I'm going to do double duty here because I have to get locates on this one as well. This was a name that we've actually traded before. And you remember it spiked up to 10, but it's had lower highs at about $788 a couple of times already. It's trying to punch through that level as we speak. So you probably have guessed it here. I think if it takes out 8, it has a chance to be a bit of a runner, but I'm going to be looking for that short initially. Of course, I can't do it till I have those locates, so I'm going to try and get those in. But I have to go to that higher time frame. You just can't notice a volume spike and a breakout and then blindly get into a trade. 8 is a big level on AHPI. The volume is pretty good, and of course, it's unavailable. So only thing I can do is go long, which means dips are about 680 to 7. Breakout is at 8 clean. From there, I'm not saying it's going to $10, but it actually has some runway to the upside. I would prefer to be short going into it first. But beggars can't be choosers, and I can't get the locates, and we'll see if we can't get those a little bit later. Back into DD, it's about to break that $8, and if it gets there, we'll probably see that position come in. Just so you can see, we got a chance to short that 10.25. When it comes into the bottom end of the range, I'll scalp some out. When it comes into $10, I'll scalp some out. If it breaks VWAP and gets down to 980, I'll take the rest out on DD. I'd rinse and repeat. As long as we can break this level to the downside, I'll start shorting maybe lower highs and continue to play off this level. But if it's going to stay in this cluster and start forming a bit of a wedge or a bull flag or whatever the heck you want to call it, I'm not going to be averaging to a short under those conditions. I'll take it one time, and this is why you take some profit out, because it's technically a bit of a bullish pattern if it consolidates up here. So you want to make sure you're getting something out, so when it breaks the high, you're losing a little bit less. I like that setup because if people are betting long, it gives you some juice. The weaker hands are going to be your outs on the way down to 10. That's why I want to have some bids in here. So when someone throws a stop in saying, okay, I'm long on the breakout of DD around 950, 960, I'll put a trailing stop in case it breaks back down here at like 10.05 or 10.10. It's like, okay, well, that's going to fill me. That's some momentum to the downside there. Then hold some through VWAP if you get a chance to. XBIO, I mean, this is the reload that I'm kicking myself on for not catching. Tough one to get. Usually I'm looking at this at 9:30. This doesn't happen till almost 9:50, and now it's right back on those bottoms. But 4:30 is a big level on XBIO. Might even be worth adding instead of subtracting on a 4:30 break, although it's short sell restricted, meaning you cannot hit that bid without an uptick, but you can't get it if you don't try, and I will try to get that short through 4:30 on XBIO.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually walking away from XBIO. I don't like this kind of movement. 450 was already, that break should have been much cleaner. The fact that we have so much volume coming in, even after that heavy cross from 490 or 485 all the way back down to 440, and we're still stalling like this, makes me hesitate. So I took my 4 cents or 5 cents, whatever it was, and I walked away. I'm done with this stock. So the only thing I can do now is just manage the positions I've got until something else pops up on my radar. FUTU, again, stops at 100 and change. That's the only stock I've got that's actually going. And NEO, I've got, and X, I've got some bids there. But for now, we're just going to wait as these futures break 4,400. What's up, Brendan?
Ride, guys. We talked about Lordstown here earlier in the week. We made fresh all-time lows earlier in the week, but nice bounce back today, 4.5%. Decent volume just breaking there as we took out that last little resistance point from yesterday for Ride.
Oh, and there goes Tesla. I mean, I thought I had my stop order, and we just talked about Tesla using like 683, and then what happened? It actually had pulled back initially off of that 680 level. Just got that HPI, by the way, breaking $8. Now Tesla's on the way to 700. You guys know 700 is a big level on Tesla, but there's that AHPI finally making a bit of a breakout. On breakout trade, usually I'm going to scalp something out, so I'll take something out on the front end here. I mean, 15 is a bit of a level. Quarters looks a little bit better here. So what just happened there is I saw a stacked offer at 15. It was kind of hard to see. We'll go AHPI so you guys can see that it was a bit of a stacked offer, only a few thousand shares. But the second I was actually sitting in front of it, on the back end of it. And then the second I saw that started to hit, I'm like, that's a lot of momentum. If it breaks, why am I getting out 2 or 3 cents off of it? If it's going to break a level like that immediately, I want to get it to run. So I put the offer back at the quarters. It's now going to halt to the upside. So if it doesn't halt here, it's in that range. If it doesn't halt here, it's coming down pretty hard. So if it doesn't halt, I'm already geared up with an order to immediately sell. However, Once I've taken profit on one of these breakouts, this is what I kind of thought that EYRP would do, and then it didn't. Although I couldn't have traded if I wanted to. But on this particular break, I want to hold some through that halt, because when we talked about this a couple of minutes ago, we said there was runway back up to like, $10 spike here. Even if you look at previous highs at 9, right? So the bag holders past this area, which we've broken out from, are way up there. That's why you want to give it some room, see if you can't get that home run. Looking pretty solid right here. So I'm always going to take profit on that reopen of the trade. If I hadn't taken anything, I'd take some on that reopen and then maybe hold the rest. I'm taking it all out in the reopen because you do have that $10 range, which is holding up here. So if it opens above 9, I'll take profit and start looking for short trades in HPI, which is already giving you this if you caught that break at 8 even. Love these runners when they go. The market's pressing to the upside. Tesla was a good one to the long. And now I'm looking at Pinterest, which is still trying to break out of that 60-60. Good thing we got out of that one.
Yeah. Okay. NEO. A couple people in the chat said AMD NEO. Yes. NEO, I'm trying to get in on that 43.50 break, but I'm not going to pay 43.88. So I've got you see this green line going across there. That's a bid that's waiting. And AMD, I see this, but I feel like, I had this on my screen earlier. I had a level marked off, but it wasn't this. It was 101. I wanted to play the short side break of 101, and we held support and we broke to the upside. So now, if we break 106, again, it moved up so aggressively. I'm not even sure if I want to take the 106 break immediately, or even maybe try to play for short around 104. So I'm still deciding. I know I want to make a move. I just don't know which direction and how I want to do it. It's going to be 106 or 104. 106 break, 104 break to the downside would be on the short side for me towards 102.50-ish. 106 break, I think I'd want to wait a little bit just to make sure that this isn't going to just be a quick run on stops and a failure at this point. The fact that it's stalling like this makes me think that there might be another leg, but at the same time, on a stock that moves this aggressively, you do have to be smart and be patient. If you miss it, you miss it, but at the same time, just be smart. You don't need to lose money unnecessarily. Brendan, what's up? Brendan? No, Brendan?
Hey guys, 10 o'clock. Let's have a quick look here at how things are shaping up so far today. You can see back in negative territory here. It is the NASDAQ still leading to the downside, although we are off the lows as we see there, about 0.5% for the 100, 0.45 for the composite, we should say. The Dow and S&P also back in negative territory. Keep staring at this Russell because it's relatively strong today, 0.07 once again to the upside. So small caps putting in pretty good moves back to the upside. Here's one of them. Lordstown back to the upside, 605 right through to 650. I mentioned big volume went off when this got taken out. So heads up on Ride there, guys. Still watching. A few other things that we were talking about in the pre-market as well. Nothing terribly exciting as far as the earnings plays. We did get that initial move on Pinterest, but kind of fading off at this point, guys. Back over to you.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that on Pinterest. It was a good out to cover, and I've been looking at this level. I didn't pull the trigger on the short because a few things happened. We went short on DT. We got the long breakout on HPI. I was sort of messing around looking at Tesla and then missed that trade. So I didn't jump into the Pinterest short. It's still in an upward trend, at least for now, and it's trying to hold VWAP. And remember what we were talking about before? Like if this thing gets below 58, I mean, it could just continue to roll over. Like this is not... It was not a good report. Like you don't want to be in the context of what happened here with Facebook and Snapchat, at least the price reaction to earnings. You just don't want to get caught in a name here that completely missed and whiffed and it had a decrease in actual active users. That's just not a good look for them overall. I want to jump back over to that XBIO just because it is to continue to head back into the downside. 43 is not broken. This is now tested almost a third time here. If it breaks, I'm still only short from the pre-market, unfortunately, but I'm looking to add if it breaks that low of the day, guys. We should be open up in a couple of minutes here, in just under 1 minute here on AHPI, but that other name was ERYP. Anyone that's still in this, oddly enough, I mean, it's still setting up that it could continue to break out. I thought it was going to be done after the downward halt and maybe press those lows, but it holds support at 790. So there is still a chance this could take things out at 950. The stock got to $25 in the aftermarket on obscenely light volume, guys. So just be a little bit cautionary with it. Just going to go back to AMD here. I know a lot of you guys are looking at AMD. Oh my God, NASDAQ. I know a lot of you guys are looking at that AMD. I had one trade and again had paper hands with it to the short side. That's because, look, I would dig in and jump back into that short on this setup if it was a stock that's not like an AMD. Like if we were talking about something along the lines of one of these smaller cap names, sure. But on bigger cap names that actually have more fundamentals behind it, you take your one shot and got to live with the circumstances of getting stopped out at the high because it's entirely too bullish. AHPI opens back up. And look, I'm going to take this shot here and then always get out at the open. Does it come back in and go to 9? I was thinking it may open above that $9. Either way, you're going to get a clean dollar move here. I'm going to start looking. I thought we'd get a 10 short. Like that's what kind of level we're looking for. But if it fails right here, right now, there is a chance at like an 850 area short and then use that halt price or a little bit above that for your out instead of the high of the day. Otherwise, allow this thing to calm down. It halted for a reason because there was a lack of liquidity and it needs to get proper price discovery. So always have a clear plan of action. And if my short was at 10, I'm either using the halt price or 10. I'm not shorting off of $9. You have to be willing to miss the move if you want to play by your plan and play by limiting downside risk and trying to do a proper trade management, guys. So XBI, I'll hang into that short as long as the Dickens come home. And then pins, I should say, not PINS. Still weak, guys. Just keep in mind what has happened to this stock, right? Like this is the move it's trying to rubber band up from, and it basically goes right into this cluster in the aftermarket and fails. If this thing rolls over, you could be looking at 56 in a hurry. So watch this one come down. There's a good reason why I think we got out of that trade. And then Robinhood, I said enough is enough, and like I got in, fail. I'm sitting in Robinhood short all day.
All right.
Probably. I mean, if it breaks 33, I'm probably adding to that, so I'll take some out in front of 33 because I said I'd take a 33 break, so let's go with that. But I mean, I got wicked out in top wick on a stock that I wanted to be short all day long in, so enough is enough. I've learned my lesson. I'm in and I'm holding.
All right. Neil, you mentioned you got to be willing to miss some trades. Well, yeah, I was willing to miss this Neo long. You still see my bid here waiting in front of 43.50 because I wasn't willing to pay 80. Here we are at 44.50. So at this point, there's no way I can chase this any higher. The window has closed. And at this point, I'm going to have to pull this order because there's no real sense in letting it come back this much because tactically, you would have already managed your exit. So I'm going to just go ahead and pull that order. That window's gone. So let's take a look at AMD. I know AMD was breaking 106 as I was talking. And here we are sitting above 106. Again, I want to see how we play. If we can find strength meaning let's get back into the 105 area, see how many buyers we can get back in. If we can get back some more buyers in to extend this, long 106, 104 stop. That's the read I'm looking for. I just want to see some more volume before I go ahead and do that. And the other one was NVIDIA. I was looking at NVIDIA. See if I can't, I've got a bid down here at 195.53. I want to play off of this 195 area. I don't think I'm going to get that given how much strength is in front of 195.20. So I'm going to go ahead and play in front of 195.50 and look for 194 as my stop. Now that's about $1.50 or so. And given that I can get it to 197, 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio, I'm happy with that. It's just a matter of getting that fill. Sometimes these are the mathematical calculations you have to make sure the trade you're taking makes sense and is worth the risk. Sometimes the trades are great, they look stellar, but the risk doesn't make any sense. So some trades, I obviously you miss, and it is what it is at that point, right? FUTU, here we go, 105, secondary check on 105. See if we can't get going here. I moved the stop to 102.75. So at this point, what is it, a $6.89 winner with the spread being about 15 cents. So this is just a matter of managing now. There's nothing we really need to do with this anymore. The stock has given me the profit and has given me the ability to manage it with the proper levels. So I just got to manage it the way the stock wants me to manage it. So let it go. We'll see how far it gets. We still have how much time? We have 53 minutes left in the show. We'll see how this stock turns out. If I'm still holding it by the end of the show, come back into the afternoon show and see how this one plays out. Now, PayPal, again, short in front of 279. I'm looking for resistance. This did get high as 280.50. Again, I'm okay with the trade. The resistance is there. The read is there. So it's just a matter of waiting for this to play out. And sometimes it takes a while. And futures, on the other hand, taking off. Here we go. 4,400 is gone. Any short read I had is gone. So now at this point, you let it go. Find a setup that works. It might take some time given the type of day we're going to have, which is the end of the month. might have more volume concentrated towards the end of the day itself. So at this point, given how fast this stock is moving, and given how fast a lot of the tech stocks are moving too, you may have to wait if you have missed the window for a lot of these trades.
I just want to note there was a monster size on DD that moved. I moved my stop 5 pennies. It's actually not a heck of a lot, but the only reason on DD that I did, it was about a 300,000 share order on the offer. It tested 35, held. That's where the original stop was, and I'll go right back into yesterday's highs. This is why we liked it. We talked about that first spike upside. It really was that 35 area that was where you wanted to dig into it, and then it held 30 area the second time through. Someone just jumped in on the offer. If I have a stop area, like a 35, and that's going to be a ceiling, and it bounces off of that, and then a big order comes in just below, to me, it's like it has a chance to walk it down, but I'm going to move my stop to that price, thinking if it breaks, I'm going to get out. So it is what it is, guys. We'll take a bit of a win here, and then we'll lose on the second half of the trade. That size has not come back. I know it's coming off here. If I were to see someone jump in and sell the same lot again, I think you jump right back into the trade. It makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. Pinterest is about to make another move here. It's put up or shut up time for Pinterest. This either now is going to make a run and take out that high, or it's just going to turn into like an unbelievable short. You'll see me in the money like 25 cents on Robinhood, but maybe I'll take some out if it gets 50 and then maybe 70 cents. And then I'm looking for over $1 on the second half of that trade, just because I'm kind of done with it. If I kind of feel the thesis to the south side, we should be hanging on to that short and looking to hold on to it for the afternoon or for the entire day if we can. Just want to see it hold that 35 level. Pinterest, give it some time to calm down. I don't think you want to have it in the middle of this range here. I want it testing the highs. It either breaks from there or I'm going to be shorting this one. As good of a long as it was, I think patiently we can wait for that short opportunity. You'll see my price have changed on XBIO because it tried to tick below that 430. So I had 480s and 430s. What's my average price now? Yeah, obviously it'll be 450. We're right back in that range. So whether you shorted on that pop at 450 or try to take the momentum break at 430, it'll amount to the same thing here. However, if this thing gets back above VWAP, XBIO down 15%, you've seen it do big pullbacks before and then make big runs. So you can't hold this trade. I'm not holding a 450 trade all the way back to 5 even. You've got to have a stop out there around 475. Otherwise, I'd be giving everything back. If this thing does not hold below that 430, which we said was going to be a support level, if it does not hold below that price, it is going to be all kinds of a $5 breakout at some point today, guys. So keep that one locked and loaded and filed away. Miss V is at the big screen. Got a name for us?
Hey Neil, MRIN is up around 13%. Stock also has earnings after market today. Do you see any opportunities on MRIN today?
So you can't ignore anything going into a number. And I'll get it right this time. It's Marine, right? Because the last time I said this name incorrectly, let's just say there were several tweets at me for mispronouncing Marine. So if I'm still wrong about it, well, then I don't know what to say, guys, unfortunately. Look, there's some big levels because this stock has already made a run to $12, so you always pull up that 15-minute chart. For those of you guys that aren't looking at it, it's not been a good look. So yes, I know it's getting off its schneid this morning. It does have an awesome, this is more to me more of a wipeout. Like it had a wipeout bottom through that fresh low at 630, right? So it's a wipeout bottom that's going to crush some shorts on the way to the upside. A lot of times those moves only have so much runway before they start to come back in. To me, that would have been a little bit closer to the 765 range, but it kind of would have make sense if it's going to be the 710 to 720. I'd be a little bit cautious going into the print, of course, at the close today to not take any profit out when you get a spike like this, which could just be one of those like short flush, wipe out the short ideas. So take some profit, definitely in front of that $8 range. I think it would be a bit of a turn at that particular price. Reloading on some Robinhood if I can get it, but I want some more above 34, not below it. And like I said, XBIO starting to cause some concern. Not a ton, but I want it breaking that 475. Cassava Sciences, which, I don't know. If you see a stock that does this in the last couple of days, right, like you all the way up, double top at 145, you actually hit a 74 print today, a 77 print this morning. I'm kind of expecting a little bit more of a wild ride, and to say $10 up and down is not a lot. It's not a lot, in my humble opinion. If this is about to break 94, the only reason I'm not taking a 94 break is I look at this level here at 95, and if it breaks through 94, Stalls at 95, I think it would be a bit of a short. I would go 95 long for the breakout just because I want to participate in the move to 100. And I said I would be shorting off of 100. That's where I would look for the turn. I'm surprised it's only a $10 range on Cassava Sciences, but that can change in a heartbeat. Brendan?
There was another IPO yesterday, guys. Rally Bio Corporation, pretty crazy one so far today. This one did absolutely nothing on its initial day, but wow, what a move this has had so far. 26 at the top, about 15 and a half at the bottom. It's been halted a bunch for RLYB.
All right, a couple new entries for me. I'm already not liking them, well, at least one of them. AMD, 106 break. I was hesitating for this very reason. I thought I had enough to work with, and then the selling came in after I got in, so I'm kind of stuck with this position. I'm kind of really keeping an eye on how this trades around 106. My biggest concern is that that move above 106 was not done on actual buy volume, but more or less shorts being squeezed out of that, of the short with the obvious round number right there. So that may be in trouble already. We'll just give it a chance. It's going to cost $2 if it doesn't work out. NVIDIA as well, 95.50, 195.53. This trade I actually like a little bit more than the AMD trade. 194 is going to be the stop. 195.53 is where my entry is. There's support right here around this 195.20-ish area. So that's what I'm working with to see if we can't get this towards 197. So 2 entries there on AMD and NVIDIA. And PayPal finally turned around after getting to 280. Finally turned around, is actually working its way back towards 278. We are short 279, 278.95 is where we're short. So waiting for this to break 278. Once it breaks 278, and okay, maybe I shouldn't say once. If it breaks 278, it really has no targets to the downside for me, so I'm just going to let it go and see if we can't get this stock really moving to the downside. And for now, future, FUTU. I've moved this stop up just below 104. Now we're locking in $6 and change on this stock as it's working its way through that sell area or that resistance area. So we're locking in profit, moving the trailing stop off on the remaining portion of our position, just to make sure that if this falls off this resistance area, I'm not going to lose or give up too much of this position. So right now I've got 3 longs, 1 short, and the one long is well in the money. The other shorts are working themselves in. Or the other 2 longs are working themselves in, and PayPal also flirting with that 279 again, so that's kind of flat for now.
As the market's roaring back, and look, I'm going to have Pinterest up all day long because obviously it's going to be the mover, down that 20% initially, obviously it's going to be a big mover. But Facebook, on the flip side of that coin with Snapchat and Facebook, which are certainly performing better, about to go positive while hopefully I didn't just jinx it. I was about to go positive on the session, but this is an interesting cluster here. Like 358, you had a bit of a bottom there in the pre-market. You had a support level on the breakup on the 23rd, and then we're right at evens. Well, not close. We're close to that 15,000 mark in the NASDAQ and right at 4,400 on the ES as well. So a lot of things converging for Facebook in this price range. You probably are looking more of a breakout if it gets through that 360 area. But if this goes and doesn't drag Pinterest at the same time, oh my God, it's a hell of a short there then, Brendan.
Just saw this Alpha Pro Tech, guys, APT. It's been kind of grinding back higher on the daily time frame ever since this Delta variant talk started. So back to recent highs here. Just cleared that 1150 area on a huge volume spike. So APT up 10% today.
I just want to say in the chat, Daniel Frank, I hope people don't try to make a comparison between Intel, NVIDIA, and AMD. Like Intel is sorry, I'm looking at Facebook because that's the next thing I'm watching. I'm watching Pinterest for that little bit of a turn, so I'm looking at those 2 off of each other right now. But one pays a dividend, one is not a growth company. Like it's in your portfolio, and for me, it's like 20% of what I have in the semi space, and the rest is AMD, NVIDIA. And we said that weeks ago for the reason that it's like a safety play and it's a 5-year type of idea. So for the day trade, does it have to get dragged up by those 2? Absolutely not. The bellwether was when their numbers were fantastic, you knew it was going to be good demand for AMC and NVIDIA as well, which ended up being true. Facebook looks like it's trying to break out that top side. And this is what I kind of mean here. Like, it just turned positive on Facebook, and then Pinterest is going to sit here. And look, you can ho-hum about the long, but it's going to sit here resisting 60. So if we continue to try to press higher in the overall market, and Pinterest wants to just hang around, it is going to be a big short at some point. You just got to be patient about putting it on. I want to make sure there's follow through in the market and no follow through in Pinterest before I get into the short trade. It was good to get out of the long. It was good to take that dip buy. It was a good idea to cover it, but I don't want to be short too early here on Pinterest because that's one that could rip your face off if it takes that 61 area out. So I don't want to risk $1.30 on that trade if I don't have to. That's why patience here on Pinterest.
Yep. Update. FUTU, we're out of FUTU now. Just broke 104. I'm walking away. So we got 102 on half the position, 103.80 on the other half. Call it 104 or for this break at least. 102. We're going to average somewhere around 103-ish on the total position. So from 98 to 103, we're looking at a $5 winner on that position. So we're completely out of that trade. PayPal breaking down finally. Here we go. That's $1.15 in the money at the moment. We'll let that go. AMD, I am very close to bailing on this position. I'll take my hit. It's going to be about 30 or 40 cents. I'm very close to, I think I'm going to just do this now actually. I'm going to see if I can get some 80s out. I don't like this trade anymore. This is my concern was this exact issue, and this is exactly what it's doing after I got in. So it's time to walk away from AMD. NVIDIA, on the other hand, I'm okay. I'll wait for this position to work itself out. My concern is more or less AMD, just because of the way it's moving and whether I want to wait to get that offer filled or I actually want to cross myself out of this position. I'm leaning towards crossing myself out of this position, given the way it's moving. Yeah, you know, I'm going to bail on this trade. This thing is moving a little too aggressively for me. And I'll get that offer just underneath 104.50 to walk away. Market itself as a whole, you can see the futures. Here we go. From 4,400 down to 43.95, that quick aggressive snap back down. So this is going to make things exciting for the futures, just to build some activity, at least some levels to work with for the rest of the day. Actually gives us the ability to find some trades that actually can happen, because the way it was moving, it was untradeable, right? It keeps expanding, not giving us any levels, just keeps on going straight up in one direction. When you do that, this is what happens, opens up the downside. I believe it's small cap recap with Brendan.
Hey guys, yeah, pretty quiet day as far as small caps are concerned. We'll talk about a few of them here. ERYP I want to mention, even though, as Neil's been saying, unfortunately it was blocked in our system, so we weren't able to trade it. This is a French ADR. Primary listing is over in Paris, so heads up if you are trading this ERYP. As I said, end of the day, or end of this move back down that it had yesterday, it ended up settling around this 910 area, so I was using that kind of as a top. It ended up rejecting off of that 910 area, and then there was support in the pre-market here at 8. So 8 and then kind of 9, 9, 10 as far as areas are concerned. I really love the setup when it does show its hand, finally breaks a key level. It's consolidating below this significant level now of 8. You can give it to 8. There's lots of room back down to 6 as far as ERYP is concerned, but unfortunately we can't trade it. ARDX, another little one that was moving in the pre-market here. Pretty sleepy trade, just grinding to the downside. 195 and then 210 above that. This thing's still doing decent volume. Lots and lots of liquidity on that one, but just kind of grinding to the downside. And then XBIO is using 5 and then 525 was a bit of support there. It did, again, kind of show its hand early on in the pre-market. So I really like this one versus 5, but hasn't been able to get through 440. 430 yet. There's lots of buying in the low fours for XBIO, guys. Back over to you.
All right. Okay. So just a quick thing here. I actually walked away from AMD. I don't like the trade. This is exactly what made me uncomfortable. Now I'm forced out of that position just because it set up the way that I was worried about. So yes, I took the hit on the first side of the position, the long side, but this opens up the read that I actually want to do now, which is a short. So I'm going to go ahead and put an offer. I actually have an offer. I'm going to get filled right there. You go. 105.48 is my short. I'm going to put 106.50, which is the high that we just put in before we came back down as the top. See if we can't get that failed breakout drop back down towards that 103. That's the read there. NVIDIA, we're going to leave that alone. Again, this trade is set up differently, so I'm going to leave this one at the 195.50 long and see if we can get that move to expand. So in a way, I'm kind of going in different directions with different tech stocks, but I'm okay with that. I'm going based on what the charts are looking like, and PayPal is looking finally like it actually wants to do something. So if we can expand a little bit more through that 278, I think we get a real move on PayPal.
Yeah, I tried once on Cassava Sciences for a different idea. That's what I was just going to say while with Brennan there. It failed twice off of this 94 break, and these are all both real here. Popped up, fail, popped up, fail. So on the second failure, I'm like, okay, well, that's a setup that I'm going to usually take, so we'll jump in and take it. And then when it took out the high, I'm just out. I still think it's more of a 95 breakout, at least in terms of the upside. So I'm not really going long Cassava Sciences just yet. We're going to hold off on that. Pinterest is now really starting to teeter. I mean, you get that push down in the market, which I was kind of, what I was hoping, of course, and I was just saying to you guys, I was kind of hoping the setup would be the market would continue higher and then Pinterest would show its hand by not being able to break out. But look, if we're going to head back into the downside, the weakest name of the bunch is going to start testing these levels down. You do have the 59 here. There was the dip buy that we pulled off at 59. It tried to trace back into this cluster here at 59, 58.50. It failed. I think you can go with that for a breakdown short price. So I'm going to move up, not wait for 58, and then go short at 58.50 breaks to the downside. So it's just a little bit of a change. It's an itty bitty one, I should say, not a gigantic one at all. I want to go back over to, if I can, not Sava, but there is that AHPI that was that halt to the upside. You can see it continuing to go up. I'm not taking the breakouts at this point. I mean, for me, it was that halt style idea. I wanted to take the break, hold into that first halt. It dipped back down. It's continuing to push up. But it was $10 that was the next level to the upside that we're talking about here on the daily. So if it continues its press, that's where I want to go short. Wondering why level 2 is on Amazon, because we were just checking back in on Amazon. And one of the reasons why you're probably getting that bit of a pullback, Amazon went right into resistance. If it holds up here, I mean, the market's trying to hold up at VWAP, Amazon's trying to hold at VWAP, it is one of the leaders. And if this actually makes a bit of a push to the upside here, you could see a nice little breakout of that 33.80, which would be a gigantic sign, in my opinion, for the overall market. And we'll do one of these, Gates of Hell. It's not a bad thing if you're short and it goes down, but remember, I added to XBIO at 430. So my average price ended up 450. In this particular case, I will take another quarter out here at that low, because if it starts bouncing over and over at 430, I want to start shorting off of VWAP. I'll still hold through any kind of a break of 430 to get down to that 4 even range. I still think that's going to be a good idea. So a winner is a winner. Maybe winner, winner, chicken dinner. Lucas, this one's too loud. And I'm going to apologize in advance. If that winner, winner, chicken dinner is like relatively loud, I don't know, like yesterday we were testing it and it felt a little bit loud to me, so I apologize to anyone's eardrums. Pinterest looks like it's going to head to this downside here, so this might be the next trade, breaking through 58.50 for me on pins. Do watch out for that French ADR, even though we can't trade it. You should be looking at that EYRP, ERYP, I should say. And then, yes, I see you guys in the chat. If you're going to do counter trend trading like I do, you got to be willing to make top wick sometimes, right? So I can be up on the day, I can be happy with the trading, but you got to be able to live with the fact that you can miss on something, right? And for me, I had 1035 as my level. I said in the morning, 1035 off of this move here was going to be my out. I adjusted my stop because of a large size order after the first test. Someone offered 30,000 shares. I moved my stop to that order saying if that gets broken, it's probably going to take 1035. That's obviously wrong. Sometimes you should stick to your levels. But as a day trader, I tend not to ignore that level too. The other way I could have played it, and this is learning experience here, other way I could have played it is because of the extra size, just get more shares in. Then those extra shares in, that's your 30 out. Your original shares, that's your 35 out. Clearly, when you're thinking on the fly, unless you plan to do that in advance, it's hard to do that on the fly. I didn't, but the next time I see it, that's exactly what I'll do, and that's why I'm walking through my thought process. And DD, I'm short forever. That's just the rules of the game. Here comes Sava, 95 even about to break, guys.
All right, just a couple situations going on here. PayPal broke through 278 very well. See if I can get this chart moved up a little bit. There you go. 278 very well. I've now moved the trailing stop up. I'm short 278.95. I'm going to move the stop up to 279.25. It's going to be about 30 cents in risk at this point. If we come back through here, it's going to be, I'd be worried about a potential support area around 278 that we can't get through. So for now, it's going to stay at 282. Well, up until now, it was at 282.50. But if at this point, I can move it down to 279 and change and just protect my downside risk here. The other one, NVIDIA is finally turning around. Great. X, that's the entry that I got. I left that order. Remember, I wanted that long off that 226 area break. Well, someone was able to get me that fill on that move right down there. So now we're instantly 20 cents in the money on X, on United States Steel. And the other one, AMD, that flip on AMD is not working out right now, but that's okay. It's set up, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And obviously, if it takes out that high, then this was a false breakout, or not a false breakout. This is just choppy action, and that's probably what this is going to end up becoming. But loss on the long, loss on the short. I'll be done with that trade if this one ends up going through the highs. And there may be an extension there, but at this point, I don't like the action enough for me to want to take a shot again on AMD on the long side. Futures, man, 4,400. Here we are, 43.92. That aggressive move tells me that there's a lot of space to the downside. When you get that kind of volume moving the market 5 points that fast, you got to be worried about the downside potential just because of how thin it's going to be. So here we are. We're getting into this 90 area. You're probably going to find some support there, but if we can break through this 75, I think at that point you've got to say this market is going to focus on the sell side at that point. But for now, we do have to get through 90 and change for us to find a support to work with. And looks like PayPal is going to come back up. See, that's a problem if it gets through that 279. That's going to be, yeah, I'm probably going to be getting out of that soon. And AMD is probably going to stop me out soon as well.
You got to be willing to, look, at the end of the day, you got to be willing to put some risk on. I just finished admonishing XBIO, or whatever we want to call it, and then it makes the break of 430 finally, and then immediately reverses at 420. Like, it's not even me making it a thing. I don't know where my, I don't know. I'm just going to hit this one.
Wow.
Oh, you hit the 420, Lucas. Good for you, man. I don't have the 420 on my board, and I hate how this number always seems to come up here. I'm not making it up, but it breaks that 430 support that we talk about, bounces off 420. I'm like, I can't look a gift horse in the mouth. I got to take the profit where it lies, so I do cover some more, unfortunately, right here in the 25 on the way back up. I will rinse and repeat. If we can get it around that 450 again, we'll have to go with that, maybe like 455. I don't like the fact that it's a failed break, so I have to put a tighter stop on it than I would have liked, guys. So unfortunately, XBIO, I thought Watergate moment to the downside that would flush like a toilet. It does not do that, unfortunately, for us here. And Sava, which I said, I'm like, oh my God, Sava's about to break. Well, I mean, it did test that 95, hit it right on the dime. My stop order's still in there to go long, and then immediate reversal, guys. So pulling right back in here. Looks like the short could be back on for this thing. I mean, just reversed hard off 95. Where do we get 95? That push to 77. The only relief it had in the pre-market after 7 o'clock was a push into 95 and then a flush. That's why I wasn't all that concerned with this level, and I had a really tight stop on the 93 short because 95 was a 1, and I probably should have shorted it. The one time I don't short a level like that, and there goes Cassava Sciences. Still in a bit of an upward trend, guys. If you draw a trend line here, you're going to probably see it get right to that 90, right to that VWAP on a bit of a bounce. Will I go long catching a falling sword here? No. I'm only taking breakouts on Cassava Sciences or a test of the actual low of the day.
PayPal. This action around 278, I didn't like it, so I took half of my position out. That was a 85-cent winner. Just underneath 279 short, and here we are getting out just in front of 278, so on half the position. So I still have the other half, just so we can actually see if we can actually get that extension and break down through 277. If it doesn't work, and we break back above 279 in that 25 area, that's where my trailing stop is. I'll lose 30 cents on half, and I'll make 90 cents or 85 cents on the other half. That's the position we're going to work with. AMD, again, stalling around 106. This is what I was thinking, but at the same time, we have the potential to break out. At this point, I really don't care how this goes. Obviously, to the downside would be nice, confirming my read, but hey, that's fine. NVIDIA bouncing through, and United States Steel bouncing back up. What's up, Brendan?
Just double checking on First Solar, guys, an earnings name for today. Yeah, looks like aftermarket. FSLR, though, running here into earnings, it would appear. A couple of upgrades today. Cohen and Company, one of them also increasing their price target. But nice look here, almost 5%. Just took out day highs there for FSLR. 10:30, let's get a quick check on how things are doing in Europe. Miss V is watching what's going on a Friday in Europe.
Hey Brandon, European markets are negative. British Airways owner IAG trading in London is down more than 5% after it said that summer capacity would rise to 45% of pre-pandemic levels, but also warned that significant uncertainty remained. Back to you.
Yeah, I did notice some of the airlines in North America kind of struggling today, guys. Volume across the board definitely down in the travel group.
Yeah, no, I thought First Solar might have reported already, but we'll find that one out for you because it is definitely moving, guys. I'm pretty sure they did report. Could be wrong about that. Maureen, that's right. Maureen pushes right back in, trying to be patient. We talked about these clusters up here. Here's 850, the last little cluster of support. I mean, I guess cluster of support until it broke down. So that's what I was waiting for it to test. It's now getting into that price. Oddly enough, not overly parabolic into it. It made one push and then did have a little bit of a fail. Now you're getting a consolidation. So, I mean, if you've seen this trade enough, that's a setup I'm going to like here, guys. So we'll see if we can't get into a position on that one. Watch out because that Sava, I mean, did I say that I was going to not short Sava? Hold on a second. Come on, load up. There we go. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and cancel. One of the things that I try to do here is I don't like having a stop order once it's traveled that far away. Like I want it on that consolidation breaking up. When it pulls back into 90, like at the $5 move down, like those are not the same conditions taking a breakout trade on Cassava Sciences. So, you know, pie in my face for not jumping into the short. We short a lot of things, but unfortunately for some reason I didn't like that one in Cassava Sciences. I will not take the breakout anymore. I'll have to see it consolidate a little bit and make a better judgment call on that one. Maureen looks like it is trying to fail off of that level, that 850 even area, but it's still hanging out. So I want to try to preach a little bit of patience in that particular price. And Pinterest holding up pretty well in this market dip. So I'm a little bit surprised. I kind of thought this was going to trigger in at any moment with the market moving down, but it just barely held. It held this 58.75 and is still holding 58.50. I still like the reversal into the short. I'm still going to do it. I just thought it would have come in already.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of people are saying Amazon in the chat. Guys, it's a $3,000 stock. It's gonna go crazy. Of course, $50 moves are nothing. So, and it's just too expensive and too thin. So I won't be trading it. Neil, I don't know if you're gonna be trading it, but for now, I'm gonna focus on the stocks that I do have. AMD hesitating around that 106. Good thing I am short. So we'll see how this one plays out. Nvidia is doing its thing. Here we go with PayPal. PayPal coming through that, well, working that 277 area. Now, this is what I want to see. I got out some in front of 278, just see if we can actually, just in case we bounced actually. And now if we can actually break this through the bottom of 277, well, no targets, let it go and see how far it wants to go. At this point, just let it go, right? Once the trades start working, take some profit, let the rest of it, man, I guess when it comes to trading, and for anyone that's just starting out watching the show, trying to learn something, guys, there's 3 different parts of a trading system, at least the way I look at it anyways. There's the entry, the management, and the profit-taking side of things. They all have to have a certain way of working together as a cohesive unit. And for me, I have targets as my profit-taking side of it, and then I pass off the rest of the position to my management side. So 3 different functions that I have in each one of my trades. And once I've taken profit on the first half or whatnot, I set a target. If I get that target, great. And then I let the trade manage. If that trade comes back, it is fine. That's fine. That's part of the game. And you just got to play the law of averages at this point. And that's how trading works, right? It's a mathematical game. You just got to learn to play with it. What's up, Brendan?
A couple things. FSLR, guys. Yeah, aftermarket yesterday, my platform had the conference call listed as still to come. So FSLR off earnings running today. Works as well. We talked about this one earlier. SC Works. Day highs here on volume, guys, which is getting into some significant levels here for this one.
And I absolutely love it. I'm going to go with Mike Drop for that. Think in probabilities. Everything is about probabilities. Like anyone that's ever like stock X is going to price Y. I'm like, that's utter nonsense, right? Like basically what you're trying to say is that I think there is a greater chance than not that stock X goes to stock Y, but a trade is more than that. A trade is, like if I'll use Maureen here, like I was waiting for that 850 turn when it turns and consolidates. What I'm saying here is, I think if I take a short, and I did at 827 or 830, doesn't really matter, I think it's going to retrace in at least to $8, and if not VWAP, at a greater probability that it's going to break 850. So whether that's 70, 30, like you're not saying it's about to go there 100%. No, like it's a probability. So, and you back test your strategy so you have a better grasp of what that probability is for that particular setup. So I absolutely love that perspective. It's a great way to say it there, Arun. Everything is about that yin and yang. It's about that probability. XBIO, oh my goodness, it's still down at that 430 low. Now Maureen, just to finish it off here, if it goes to VWAP, I'm out. That setup that I'm looking for, it's always going to be that consolidation rollover. If it goes for the rest of the day, I'm usually looking to re-enter somewhere below VWAP. If it goes to the downside and maybe break 750, it's never more of a hold it all day long kind of thing. That's just the way that I approach that particular trade. XBIO, probably looking pretty boring. And Pinterest, very, very frustrating. Cassava Sciences, however, consolidating lower and looking like it still wants to break down. So it's not exactly a double top here, but when you factor in that it failed at that 95, it kind of does give me an entry point that if it does make a pop and fails shy of 95 even, there could be a short in that price range, guys. So I might not have to wait around for 95 even on Sava. Only had that one short with a tight stop. Probably should have got back in, but you gotta lick your wounds. I didn't do it. I don't want to miss it the second time through. Let's see if it pops off of 90 and gives me an entry off this like 93, 94. Still a reversal to the long off 95, but the next trade looks like a short to me.
Yeah, this is weird. The one stock that I actually thought was doing better than the other one, NVIDIA, I thought it had better support than AMD. And that's the one that I actually stopped at first. So we lost that 194 area fairly quickly, and I just got stopped out at 193.79 actually. So probably the bottom, I think. Anyways, I'm out of that position at this point. So walking away from NVIDIA, and AMD is still flirting with that 106 area. So there's that read of, oh, there's resistance up there. There's some sort of hesitation. There's some volume, hidden volume. That read is still there. It's still available. For whatever reason, this is stalling still, even though it wants to go up. It is working. It's trying to work its way through some sell side activity, and it's kind of failing at the moment anyways. It might break right through, but that's fine. That means they just got through that sell side activity. We'll leave that one alone. It's going to take care of its business, and we'll come back to PayPal, figure out what we want to do on PayPal. Here we are, $276.50. That's about, what is that, $2.50 or so in the money on PayPal on the second half of the position. Again, no targets on this. Just let it go. At this point, there's nothing I can really do. This trailing stop has moved, or was moved to 279.25, and I'm going to leave it there and just kind of let it play itself out. And X has gone sideways as well. So for now, not a whole lot to do. Guys, throw some stocks in the chat for me. What's up, Brennan? No?
Let's get a look at the overall market, guys. We'll figure out what is happening so far today. 0.43 for the S&P to the downside. That is off of the lows. If you want to understand what the entire market is doing today, have a look at this corner of this board today. Amazon, Etsy, and eBay, all 5 to 7.5% to the downside. So consumer discretionary names, some of the travel names here as well. Cruise lines, hotels, all in negative territory. Once again, VFC reported NWLF after a pretty good week, 4.4, 2.3%. Friday to the downside, there's Booking.com, Caesars, Marriott, as I mentioned. But consumer discretionary stocks leading as far as the decliners are concerned. A few negative names down here as well in the tech group. KLAC, Mark mentioned that one in the pre-market if you joined us. Nice day today. Was up 6% pre-market, 2 more on top of that now. Skyworks there, SWKS to the downside, FTNT and PayPal among notable names in negative territory. The entire energy group to the downside today. Not a huge move, but definitely negative. Real estate stocks, worth noting, they're positive to the upside. Same story with the healthcare group and a number of individual names, including the travel names. There's all the airlines, as we were talking about, pretty negative to wrap up the week. But overall, a mixed board today, guys. 0.4 to the downside for the S&P. Back to you.
I wanted to show a daily chart on Coinbase because I just got out of Robinhood. Like, I've shorted 3 times. There's been some good trades in there, but none for me. That'll be my negative one for the day. But I wanted to show you on Coinbase because someone just said in the chat, I'll buy Robinhood at $10. And look, Coinbase can be trading at $230. But on that first day, Coinbase opened at $380, shot up above 400, closed at like 330, then went all the way down to $20. And 380 to 330. $38 to yesterday, Robinhood 33. So, I mean, look, I would say let's buy it at 20 because that's where Coinbase eventually went to. I mean, it kind of goes without saying it's a completely different story. You're talking about a direct listing versus an IPO. I know they're not exactly the same thing. I just find it awfully interesting. So as far as the target goes, yeah, you count me in at $20 on Robinhood. I'll join you guys there. I'm not waiting for, well, I wouldn't wait for $10. That's kind of an aggressive pullback, obviously getting cut in half. I haven't been joking around about what levels they can go to, but it's trying to get bought up today. I'm going to look back to 36. I wanted to short up 35 the first time. I tried it 3 times. The next one will be off 36. And then Pinterest, I was about to tell you guys, it was about to break down. I'm like, I'm going to get that short, finally waiting for it. And then it pops back up. Now, I'm not going to short the high. I'm not going to short 60. I was going to short 60.35 in front of that high of the day, something in that range. So we're not quite there yet. I want to make sure that our next trade is careful. I mean, pins is obviously going to be my best long of the day because anytime you gamble that you get a put of a And this is nothing fundamental. Let's be honest about it, right? Like Pinterest, and I even said it at the time, this is just, it fell so far and it fell right into a cluster, just above a cluster of support on the daily chart, like even Mark said, that it's more of a rubber band style action. Like it's just gonna bounce back a little bit here, too far, too fast. We'll sit it in the pre-market for that push. You know, if it gets dumped at the open, buy the support and then make a scalp trade. But you don't have to over trade at something like this, right? You can be one and done. If you had, and I'll point you to this here because I'll promise you right now, like I've known Sean for a long time, probably almost some guys might say too long, but I can tell you right now, you know, when Sean's probably looking at like, and I guarantee you would have had like a 103 long, right? There's a 0% probability that he's not covering some in front of this cluster at 104. There's a 0% probability that he's not covering some in front of yesterday's high. And if he's buying this dip here at 104, he's definitely getting some out at that 106, and he might be waiting now. And that's perfectly okay. So I'm waiting on Pinterest. It's Friday. We're heading into lunchtime. You can calm down with your trades. I'll probably get more of something like a XBIO if it pops any higher. I'll probably get into Sava if it meets my conditions. It's getting pretty close to that as well, but you don't have to force the trade. You can get jiggled in and out here, unless you got an algo trading inside of the range on something like an AMD. You can get jiggled in and out so much. No need to deal with that noise, guys. You settle in with your trade. Only take what sets up for you. You've got to trade your own book, your own style, and make sure you pay yourself and take profits where they do lie. And then the money will flow. Good decisions first, money comes after that. So as much as I want to be all over Pinterest today, I don't like it in the range. I want it testing the high or breaking that 58.50. Yeah,
just a couple of, an update with AMD. They got through that resistance area. I'm out, by the way, just above 106.50 and change. That's fine. That's a read and it didn't work out, so we'll just move on to another trade here. It's unfortunate actually, because typically when you get the breakout failure, typically when you get a breakout or any sort of trade that looks in one direction and fails, the failure portion of that trade is actually much better than the initial breakout or the obvious trade. So the fact that it didn't work out, hey, it is, like I said earlier, it's a math game, and a few losers here, a few winners there. As long as your winners are larger than your losers, it works out. In this case, my, what stock was that? FUTU is carrying most of my losses anyways, so I'm still doing fairly well because of that winner. ANVS, guys, you guys are talking about that 40 area. Yeah, we got above there, but I want to point out something. Take a look at, this is the ANVS times level 2. The spread when we got to 40, when we got above 40 actually, was 50 cents. So it's easy to say it's breaking 40 by printing 10 or 15 or 20 shares above the market, because on a chart it looks like it broke, but there was next to no volume and the spread was 50 cents. So no, I'd be very careful of how you trade the stock because it is ridiculously thin when it gets to certain areas. Right now the spread is fairly close, it's 12 cents, but it was crazy when it got to 40 that the spread opened up that much with no volume trading. What's up, Brendan?
John Fraser, CEO of Treatment.com, joining us today. Great to have John with us to talk a little bit about a brand new app the company has developed, Kara, which is an artificial intelligence-based app that's working on diagnostic work in the healthcare sector and in the healthcare industry for individuals. It's great to see you, John. Thanks for doing this today.
Good morning.
Let's talk a little bit about the company first. Where did this concept come from? Because it's definitely a different approach here.
Sure. Well, I think what happened was, people are going onto the internet to get more and more information for their healthcare, right? I mean, you Google things. You look up online whenever you have a cough or a sneeze or whatever, especially busy moms. So about 5 years ago, I assembled a team. This is my third company, by the way, in healthcare, to really look at building artificial intelligence into mobile apps so that we can do a much better job of diagnosing and treating people right at home.
Continues to move in this direction as far as technology is concerned. Let's talk about Kara. Because it's very interesting, and I feel like it's going to be an ever-expanding tool that people will come to learn and maybe rely on as we go forward here. Tell everyone exactly what they need to know here. So this is artificial intelligence based and working on diagnostic work as far as health concerns.
Yes, yes. What we did is we built a team, an international team of doctors to really train this very friendly AI system we call Kara to really help understand, what kind of symptoms you have. It interviews you just like a doctor. It was trained just like a doctor so that you can really figure out, what your symptoms are in detail. And then how do those symptoms associate with certain diseases? So you can get a much, much better read on your health conditions at home for you, for your kids, maybe your grandpa that you're worried about, right at your fingertips using the very latest healthcare information, again, trained by doctors.
And we're seeing a visual there to kind of aid with this as well of the app itself. Very user friendly. Lots of user friendly graphics on the app itself. When it comes to, I mean, the obvious question here, when it comes to information, what do people have to provide as far as personal information is concerned to get, a response or get a result from the app itself? And secondly, is it more generic on the conditions side of things, or will it maybe at some point remember your conditions or what has happened in the past to kind of rely on that as time goes by?
Well, that's a good question. We did a lot of consumer research about how people interact with these healthcare applications. And what we discovered is people are very reticent to give up their private health information. So we've made it very simple to sign into our app. And then basically all we need is your age, your sex, and your location. And that essentially sets up our AI engine then to start a very, very sophisticated interview of you. Again, it thinks like a doctor. And then as you use the application, the more information you're willing to share, the more accurate, obviously, the assessments can become. So we really rely on the customer to sort of make that judgment and give us more information as they feel the app is giving you kind of better information and you want to dig deeper, maybe into your condition or, again, for your loved ones, your kids. It's really geared for families, busy moms, people like that who really want something better than Google.
So completely on the user end of things when it comes to how much you're willing to actually input into the app to get a response.
Sure. Well, initially, all you need, as I mentioned, is your age, sex, location. But we also, in thinking like a doctor, we also can take in things like risk factors, right? Do you smoke? What's your weight? There are hundreds and hundreds of risk factors in medicine, and our AI engine can actually factor in all of those, into making a better and better set of diagnoses for you. So it's really sort of disclosure, how much you're willing to share with the AI engine. It'll then give you a better and better, understanding of what your conditions could be.
You mentioned primary caregivers, the target audience here, whether it be parents looking after maybe a child with some sort of ailment or elderly. Where are we seeing the highest demand for the product at this point, and are there plans to maybe expand that into the educational side of things as well?
Yes, our initial launch is going to be this fall. It'll be a free app, as you showed on the screen, and that'll be available for everyone in North America. And then we will use the same AI engine over time to start providing medical education. In fact, a leading medical school in the United States has already purchased the AI system to help train and test medical students. So again, being designed by doctors, built over 5 years by a team of doctors, we feel that our AI engine can not only provide care and help to busy moms and any other caregivers, but also will help medical schools and eventually busy doctors who can use the same AI to provide better care.
Where are we on the development side of things when it comes to the app itself, John, and what is there as far as a timeline before people can actually get their hands on this and start testing it and using it here in Canada, I assume first, and then maybe talk a little bit about plans for the rest of the world?
Sure. Well, we are launching in North America this fall, so it'll be both Canada and the U.S. simultaneously. And then we will be expanding internationally. Our system supports multiple languages. And actually, the funny thing is, we had to have it translate initially from doctor speak to sort of regular English. So that was our first translation. But that'll allow us to get into, the Chinese market, India, Germany, obviously Europe, in multiple languages, because the need for this is global. People do 1 billion searches a day on Google about health issues, but all you get back is maybe you get a cold or cancer, right? It's not very helpful. So we want to be better than Google by providing that more personalized healthcare information for everybody.
It's an interesting idea and a very interesting topic, and one that I'm sure a lot of people will find very, very useful once available to them. John Fraser, CEO of treatment.com. Thank you for doing this, first of all, and we look forward to an update in the future.
Okay, thanks very much.
There we go, guys. Treatment.com, TRUE, the ticker on the CSE, guys.
Absolutely, Brennan, and a good one as always. A fantastic interview. Every single time we do an interview, Brennan gets all the compliments here, and we always say, Sean always says, and probably rightfully so, someone's going to steal Brennan from us at some point. I mean, look, I don't think it's going to happen. He loves it here, and I hope you do. Finally, oh my goodness, finally, Cassava Sciences. We talk about being patient a little bit and sort of waiting in the wings and get your setup. And look, I was looking for that 95 break. It obviously never happens. This is like 95 almost on the dime, right? So it doesn't happen. We actually slam back to the downside. I'm like, patiently, if it comes up, we'll either short the break, or short the pop, or short the breakdown. We get 90s, comes right into this previous support here at 88. So of course I'm going to take $1.50. I'm not going to look that gift horse. Oh my goodness, hit the gift horse for me because my board is messed up. Rob, I need to fix that one for you. But my next level down is going to be 85, but I don't want to look the gift horse mouth. We'll scalp some out. It's lunchtime. You got to make sure you're taking the profits where they lie. There was a question about Snapchat. What do we think about it? I said in the morning that one of the things I loved, one of the reasons why all the chatter in the afternoon show, and by the way, it's going to be an interesting way to end the week. Arun already said it. I'll double down. 3:15 to 4. That last hour is going to be crazy, especially with what happened to Pins and Amazon here and the market trying to get back to positive. But we said Snapchat on earnings when they had that pullback, after fantastic numbers, and they hit on their user numbers, guys. When they had that pullback, that was strike number 1 for Pinterest. When Facebook had blowout numbers and they pull back, that was strike number 2 for Pinterest. When Pinterest gets dumped today, where do you think we say you should put that money in, or where does it look a bit better? Like Snapchat. Like for me, it's like every penny that I got in Snapchat, it's like I wish I had sold Pinterest, and I'll look to find a place to get out of the rest of my Pinterest. Doesn't matter where you're in, guys. And then put it into Snap or Facebook or in the market. Just buy the overall market, put it in the NASDAQ, put it in the S&P, that's the way to go. But I have to get more shares. Sorry, Cassava Sciences here, was that breakdown. It just popped back into that 90 range, so I don't have to get more shares. But if it wants to fail again right around 90, I would try to rinse and repeat, try to get that same entry point, and then just scalp $1.50 to $2 if I can. Big pop up there. Anytime you see support like that, it's that time of day where you expect ranges to be held a little bit longer, so take some out. If you get that same setup again, like it pops up into 90 and fails, I can just jump back into the same position, get a couple scalp trades for $1.50 to $2 on Sava. Yes, $1.50 is scalping Cassava Sciences. Look at the range on the day. That's not even half of what it was yesterday's range. Forget about $10. It was like $50 yesterday, guys. So crazy moves on Sava can happen, but at lunchtime, I'm willing to play inside of this range here, Arun.
All right, a couple things. Sava, yeah, 88. Just below 88 is what I'm looking at. Actually, I'm thinking about going short on Sava. If we can get below that, I think if we can actually stabilize below 88, we might actually have a look at 84. And if we get below 84, the stock is going straight through 80. For now, I'm going to keep an eye on 80 and see if we can get a trade there. AMD, we're going to walk away from. X is doing its thing around 26. We're still in that. And PayPal, here we go, below 276 now. So this is over $3 in the money. Nothing to do except let it go and see how this one plays out. So for now, one trade on deck, couple trades being managed, and that's it. Going into lunchtime, we're just going to eat lunch and have some fun. Brendan.
Let's get into earnings, guys. It's Friday, so not a big list for today, but coming up next week, there are still some big names to get through. We'll get into some of the retail names next week, guys. Just to name a few, Wednesday next week specifically, Roku, Etsy, Uber, Fastly coming, Lemonade, so lots of big names still to come. That is mostly Monday. There are a few on their aftermarket as well.
Marine, definitely. So look, it's bigger next week for sure, but we know Marine's going to be there. And if you're not watching that stuff, by the way, breaking that, and said in the chat here, if you're in position already in a direction and a rune likes that direction, then you've probably got a nice little trade on there. So I'm pretty happy about that. While it's a good thing you mentioned Marine, because nice short, get back in, top, and then able to get some out here on that push to 825, but it took out the high of the day. So I am out of that short, but the reason why it can be profitable is because you take profit out on the way down. When you're going, I said it over every time, I'll kind of double down here. Every time it pops to the upside, a strong move like that, if you have a level to play off of, that's your way in. You're either holding longs and buying dips, or you're playing off key levels if you're counter trend. And the only way to make that work is if you pay yourself each time, because it just increases the probability. Like, there's only so many positive outcomes when you're counter trend, and you want to make sure you're exposing yourself to as many as possible. One more thing we do before we get out of here. Personally, I think it should be National Blue Jay Day, because I'm finally able to go to an actual game at the Rogers Center. That's why I have the Blue Jay shirt. I know it's a Hawaiian shirt too, but yes, it's a Blue Jay shirt. I can't wait to be at the game. But what actual national day is it, Miss V? Gotta be curious.
All right. Valeria?
Hi guys. Thank you very much for trading this week with us. I hope you're having a great day. I wish you a wonderful weekend in advance. And don't forget that we are back at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time to trade the close together. Also, guys, please don't forget to like this video. We're here for you every day, working hard and trying our best, and would really appreciate a like from you. Happy National Cheesecake Day / Blue Jays Day.
I like cheesecake.
And that's special for
You know what's like I love chocolate cheesecake. Chocolate cheesecake is actually fantastic. Why are we looking at a Wikipedia page for the Toronto? Oh no, I love what you're doing there, because it's National Blue Jays Day. Why not? And okay, Mike Davis. Yeah, I saw someone throwing Mike Davis. You like San Francisco? You guys are the best community out there, but nobody's perfect. I understand that some people support the wrong team, and if it's not a Toronto team, it's the wrong team. And I understand some people like pineapple on pizza. Do your own thing, man. It's all in good fun here, but you're wrong about pineapple on pizza. It's absolutely disgusting. The Jays are going to win tonight, probably because they're playing the Royals and they stink. But either way, it should be a heck of a lot of fun. Do not go anywhere, guys. It's going to be an interesting day. It's the end of the week. It's the end of the month for trading. So the close is going to be a big one, especially after those Amazon earnings. So it should be a fun comeback at 3:15. It'll be wild. Arun's giving you levels on the futures. Trust me when I tell you, you want his experience going into month-end close for sure. So for the entire team down the line, for Miss V, for Arun, aren't you hot in that sweater?
It's too cold.
And Hydration Nation. And for Brendan Wickens, I'm Neil Roberts. Sean somewhere is yelling bang for AMD. I promise you that, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Trader TV Live, and we'll see you at the close. Bye, guys.